Chapter 110. I Ching hesitated. Suspicious, he did not reply. The other party's attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Although they looked vicious, they always used up half of their immortal chi just as they were about to hit him. Without the support of immortal chi, all that was left was their understanding of swordsmanship. For a moment, the two of them were in a stalemate. Wan Su urged anxiously, "Hurry, what are you waiting for? Attack my lower right side." I Ching frowned and sent a voice transmission, "Why are you helping me?" "There's no time to explain." The other party sounded more anxious. "I can't let you die here. Let's get out of here first." "No way." I Ching rejected directly. He did not care why this person was suddenly helping him. "If I leave, the hundreds of cultivators behind me will definitely die. You can't save them even if you stay here." Wan Su's voice trembled. "4 of the 5 people behind you are mystic immortals. You can't deal with them. Leave here and find your master." "You know my master?" I Ching was shocked. "Of course I know him." Wan Su gritted his teeth. "I'll tell you the truth. Actually Wan Su, what are you waiting for?" Before he could finish, the mystic immortal behind him seemed to have noticed something. He suddenly said, "You're taking so long to deal with a sword cultivator from the lower realm. A golden immortal is indeed a golden immortal. I don't have time to waste with you." With that said, he suddenly waved his hand. Immediately, a golden light shot straight in the direction of the crowd. I Ching was shocked. He immediately turned around and transformed his chi into a dragon. He charged directly at the golden light. With a dragon's roar, the golden light stopped in front of the defensive array. I Ching mobilized all the spirit chi in his body and waved it forcefully, trying to disperse the golden light. You overestimate yourself." The person snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, another golden light shot out. This time it went straight for I Ching. It was too late to turn back and defend. However, the defensive array was right behind him. He could not retreat. The golden light was about to penetrate his body. "Be careful." Wan Su panicked. He rushed forward and summoned the defensive array to block the second golden light. The Xian immortal's face darkened and he sneered at Wan Su. "Wan Su, are you going to betray Master?" His face instantly turned pale and his body trembled. "No, I'm not. Don't forget, the only reason you're still alive is because of the Lord's mercy. Otherwise, you would have entered the cycle of reincarnation a long time ago, and now you're actually pitying these ants." His eyes instantly turned cold and he chuckled. "Whatever, ants will be ants. You will never be able to become a true immortal. Since you insist on seeking death, I will fulfill your wish and clean up the sect while I am at it." "No." Wan Su widened his eyes in horror. It was too late. The Xian immortal waved his hand at the people behind him and said, "Clean them up quickly. Don't leave a single one alive." In the next instant, the 5 of them formed hand seals at the same time. 5 rays of golden light merged into one, bringing with them a world-destroying immortal pressure as they charged forward. Even Wan Su, who was a golden immortal, was forced to take several steps back. The defensive array that Shen Yuanyu and the others had set up shattered. Under the pressure of the immortal pressure, everyone fell to their knees like ants. Those with lower cultivation levels could not withstand the pressure. Blood flowed out of their eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Their cultivation levels dissipated, and their bodies began to crack under the immense pressure. Even I Ching could not stand steadily. The spirit sword in his hand broke into 2. The golden light was about to turn everyone into ashes. Suddenly, everything darkened. A figure appeared in front of I Ching, casually raising a hand to block the attack. The light with the power to destroy heaven and earth stopped. It was like a piece of paper that was cut into millions of pieces, and the immortal pressure on everyone dissipated. "Master." I Ching looked up in surprise. Thank goodness they made it in time. "Hey, chef." She reached out with her other hand and patted his head. Very seriously she praised, "You did well. You've worked hard. Leave the rest to me." "Yes, master." His tense nerves finally relaxed, and his whole body powerlessly sat on the ground. Behind him, Wan Su and the Shen Yuan family all heaved a sigh of relief. Suddenly they felt the urge to cry. Finally. "Who are you?" The mystic immortal in the air was shocked. He looked down at the woman who had suddenly appeared. She actually managed to block the combined attack of the 5 of them with one hand? Even with his mystic immortal cultivation, he did not sense how she had appeared here. Shining finally looked up at the 5 people in the air. She did not answer his question. Narrowing her eyes, she asked slowly, "Who said just now, leave no one alive?" She paused. Without waiting for an answer, she continued. All right, I'll grant you your wish. The five of them paused. Instantly, they felt a murderous aura filling the sky, rushing towards them. They felt as if they had fallen into an ice house. Their hearts froze. Subconsciously, they had the urge to run away. The mystic immortal suppressed the inexplicable panic in his heart. He laughed coldly and said, "Humph, you're just a cultivator from the lower realm. You've learned some special skills and you dare to speak so arrogantly. Today you dash dong." Before he could finish speaking, there was a loud thud. The other mystic immortal who had been standing beside him suddenly fell from the sky. He landed heavily on the ground, no longer breathing. Sigma? Junior brother, how? The mystic immortal was shocked. He turned to look at the woman in front of him. She was still standing in the same spot. Her clothes did not even move. What exactly is dong? Another sound rang out. Another immortal beside him was smashed to the ground. Yenyu. What exactly happened? Dong. The third one. You. He was already panicking. Looking at Shining, who was still standing in the same spot, he asked, "What exactly did you do?" Dong. The fourth one. In less than 4 breaths' time, he was the only one left in the air. Yet he had no idea what had happened, let alone who had attacked. Fear rose in his heart. He widened his eyes at the woman who was not moving at all. Was she really a cultivator from the lower realm? What exactly are you? Before he could finish speaking, he felt a gust of wind pass by his ear. A lazy voice rang in his ear. It was clearly a gentle tone, but it sounded like a voice from hell. It's your turn. The next moment he felt intense pain all over his body. His immortal bones were directly shattered. With a crash, he fell from the sky. He only understood when he lost consciousness. It was not that the woman did not move. It was because she was too fast. They did not even see her afterimage before the attack was over. This kind of terrifying strength was simply impossible to exist. In less than half a minute, the immortal from the upper realm who had forced the entire Shenyuan family into a corner was defeated. It was so fast that they did not even have time to react. Shen Yuanyu felt like he was dreaming. He suddenly wanted to know how much great immortal Shen had held back when she came to the Shenyuan family for a chat. I'm so tired. Shining clapped her hands. Her body bent like a shrimp. She was back to her usual useless self. It was as if the word lazy was stuck on her body. Just as she turned to order food from chef, she saw Wansu beside him. Hey, there's another one. She forced herself to straighten her back and was about to walk over. Wait, exalted immortal. Wansu was shocked. He immediately recovered from the shock of the rapid destruction of the immortal party. With a panicked expression, he explained, I'm with you. I'm a good citizen. Xinying's hand paused. She turned to the side. What was going on? Master, he was indeed helping me stall for time just now. I Ching nodded. After some thought, he added, but he came with the 5 immortals. I don't know him either. Oh. Xinying's eyes narrowed. How could you not know me? It's me, it's me. Wansu pointed hard at his own nose and looked at Xinying anxiously. Exalted immortal, we've met before. Have you forgotten? Look carefully. I came down to the lower realm to look for you. Chef, do you remember? I don't remember. Oh, then let's just destroy them. The corner of Wansu's mouth twitched. His expression immediately turned bitter. No, exalted immortal. I'm really one of you. He suddenly thought of something. He raised his hand and conjured an invisibility spell. Only his lower body was hidden. With a serious expression he said, It's me. I'm Floaty. The two of them, I'm Floaty Snow. Chapter 111. You're the immortal soul from the ancient immortal residence? I Ching paused. Then, understanding what he meant, I Ching glanced at him. Aren't you Bitao? You remember? Wansu was overjoyed. He nodded his head vigorously and said, Yes, yes, yes. That remnant soul is me. Bitao is my original name. I came to the lower realm to see the exalted immortal. Ever since he got his immortal soul back, he had been wanting to return to the azure world to find her. Now he finally saw him. Wansu, no. Bitao suddenly felt like crying. You don't know how many ways I've tried to. His nose turned sour and he subconsciously wanted to hug her thigh. Just as he reached out, a green light flashed in front of him, and a green leaf stretched out from her thigh. With a slap, it slapped him hard in the face. A radish-shaped vegetation spirit split open from the middle and bared its sharp teeth at him. Gee. Get lost. Ugly bastard, don't even think about stealing my thigh. Bitao, all right. Shining reached out and pressed Radish back. She finally remembered Floaty. She stepped forward and said, "That Floaty, explain what's going on. How many of you are there?" Bitao suddenly remembered the matter at hand. He hurriedly said, "Exalted Immortal, we have 15 people with us this time. 10 of them are Mystic Immortals and 5 are Golden Immortals. Apart from the 6 of us, the others went to the north and south. We have to hurry. Other than you, no one in the Azure world is a match for them. Especially in the east, where there are the most people." 7 people? Shining suddenly interrupted him. Bitao paused. "How did you know?" "Oh, I just came from the masochist's house," she said calmly. "I'm done there." Done? That was way too fast. It hadn't even been an hour since they came to the lower realm and they were wiped out so quickly? It seemed that his choice back then was correct. However, what the hell was the Shuddering Grace sect? "Oh yes, what is the day of reharvest?" Shining suddenly asked. Bitao looked surprised. "You know about the day of reharvest?" She nodded. "Why do you want to destroy the world?" As soon as he said this, the surviving members of the Xian Yuan family gathered around him and looked at Bitao. This was indeed very strange. Judging from the tone and demeanor of those immortals just now, it was obvious that they were disdainful of the things in the lower realm. Then why did they spend so much effort to come here and even wanted to kill everyone, not even sparing the children who were cultivating qi? It was a matter of coarse and merciless method. It was simply more ruthless than a devil cultivator. Bitao's face paled and he seemed to have thought of something. He clenched his fists tightly by his side. After a moment of silence, he took a deep breath and finally found the courage to speak. "The abode master of the Qing Tong immortal abode of the upper realm conducts a thorough cleansing of the 3 azure realms every 100,000 years. It allowed all living beings to enter the cycle of reincarnation in the 3 realms and be reborn. The day of cleansing was called the day of reharvest. Including this time, this is already the 13th time Manor Master Sun Li has cleansed this realm." "You've destroyed the world 13 times. Everyone gasped in shock and anger. I Ching stepped forward and asked, "Why did he do that?" "This is a myriad of living beings. What were mortals in their eyes?" "Because the abode master is the master of this realm." Bitao's expression darkened. The entire 3 azure realms is a mystic realm created by the abode master using the immortal meridian. As the creator of this realm, the abode master can do whatever he wants with it. That's ridiculous. If he only wanted to create a mystic realm, why would he bring in a myriad of living beings? I Ching asked. Moreover, he had destroyed the world over and over again. Although immortals had the ability to create mystic realms, living beings were different. Only the great Tao could create living beings. All living beings would eventually return to the cycle of reincarnation in the 3 realms. Bitao's frown deepened. He clenched his fists even tighter. "That's because, that immortal meridian," Shining suddenly said. Bitao was shocked. His eyes widened as he looked at her. "You knew?" "I could guess." Shining frowned. That abode master did not use the immortal meridian to create the azure world. He created this realm for the immortal meridian, right? "That's right." Bitao nodded vigorously. "The immortal meridian is hard to find. It's a treasure of the immortal realm. An immortal meridian can help the abode master become an exalted immortal, second only to the young emperor. But, the immortal meridian that the abode master obtained is incomplete. Although it is beneficial for cultivation, it is not enough to help the abode master advance to the next level. The only way is to nurture the immortal meridian." He paused for a moment before continuing, "But the immortal meridian is formed by the accumulation of thick immortal qi. The immortal qi in the Qing Tong immortal abode is only enough for the immortals to cultivate normally. It is not thick enough to nurture the immortal meridian, unless we borrow it from somewhere else." "We borrow it from the cultivators of the lower realm," Shining continued. "Yes." Bitao took a deep breath and scanned the crowd. The abode master created the azure world on the immortal meridian and brought in living beings. He wanted the cultivators of this realm to absorb the spirit qi of heaven and earth to increase their cultivation level. When the cultivators die, the spirit qi will naturally be used to nourish the immortal meridian. "But, isn't the immortal meridian formed from immortal qi?" Shen Yuanyu could not help but ask. "Spirit qi cannot compare to immortal qi, right?" "Indeed it cannot." Bitao's tone changed. "But there are millions of cultivators in the lower realm. Although spirit qi was not as thick as immortal qi, a little made a lot. Millions of cultivators nourished the immortal meridian faster than any other place in the immortal realm. So, I Ching's expression was as black as the bottom of a pot. The world is destroyed every 100,000 years so that all the cultivator's spirit chi can nourish this immortal meridian? Yes. Bitao nodded. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. All the living beings in the three azure realms existed just to nourish the immortal meridian. No wonder the immortals started massacring the city without saying a word. No wonder this day was called the Day of Reharvest. Reharvest meant rebirth. And reharvest meant a bountiful harvest, right? Their bountiful harvest was their death. Were these the immortals of the upper realm? Was this the nature of this world? Everyone was instantly filled with anger, but there was nothing they could do. Don't worry. There is a limit to the number of people in the lower realm. The next time they send immortals down, it will be at least 1,000 years later. Once this day is over, we will be safe. But no one calmed down because of this. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Shen Yuanyu could not help but feel afraid. If not for Shining, the immortals might have wiped out the entire three azure realms just like the previous 10 times. There was a dead silence in the room. Anyone would not feel good knowing that they were just a spirit chi tank raised by the immortals of the upper realm. It took Shen Yuanyu more than 10 minutes to recover from the truth of the apocalypse. Thank you, Sect Master Shen, for your help. What should we do next? Shen Yuanyu looked at Shining. Yanran had already regarded her as the pillar of support for the entire upper azure world. Even the traveling immortals and disciples behind him were looking at her expectantly. Shining shook her head. Didn't Drifter say that everything would be fine after today? There's nothing for me to do here now. Do as you see fit. Shen Yuanyu nodded and thanked Shining again. Then he turned around and began to arrange for the post-disaster reconstruction work. I'm so tired. Shining turned around. Chef, let's go home. Yes, master. I Ching, who had finished regulating his breathing, took 2 quick steps forward and stopped the person in front of him. Master, the transportation array is this way. Air. The two of them turned and walked toward the transportation array. Suddenly they thought of something and waved their hands. Drifter, come with us. Yes, exalted immortal. The person who was still half invisible immediately floated over. Shining walked into the transportation array. She had a vague feeling that she had forgotten something. Forget it, I'm too tired. I'll think about it later. A certain long worm from the E family. Why isn't the great immortal here yet? Epsilon 3, for all, 3. Chapter 112. Invincible Sect. Halfway there, Lone Moon remembered that he had missed someone from another sect. He returned to fight some monsters. Now all he could think about was recipes. I've exercised a lot today. Will Father Nyo agree to have supper? I wonder if he's awake. Just as he was hesitating about whether to go and take a look, he heard a weak voice from behind him. Exalted immortal. Bitao, who was surrounded by a large group of girls, looked around and shivered. He felt that these girls were looking at him strangely. It was as if they were too bright. Did he do something wrong? All the body cultivator disciples. Sect Master has brought back another immortal realm punching bag. Heartsuit. Exalted immortal. Bitao could not help but call out again. Hadn't they already confirmed that he was on the same side? Please give me a hint. Shining turned back and was about to say something when Yu Hong rushed over. Sect Master, something has happened to Elder Lone Moon. Supper. Xin Ying's eyes widened. Let's go. Just as he took a step, he turned and picked up Floaty, before following Yu Hong to Father Nyo's room. Father Nyo was still unconscious. Not only that, but he looked even worse than before she left. His forehead was covered in sweat and blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. Look, what's going on? Xin Ying let go of Floaty. Isn't this? Bitao's eyes widened. He took 2 steps forward and looked at the person on the bed. He just passed the tribulation of ascension? Yes. Xin Ying nodded. Bitao sucked in a breath of cold air and checked the pulse of the person on the bed. The more he looked, the uglier his expression became. His immortal bones have already been formed. Why is there no trace of immortal chi in his body? As he spoke, he sent some immortal chi into the person's body. Lone Moon's expression improved. In order to block the 83 bolts of lightning, I Ching explained. He used all the immortal chi in the lightning tribulation to block the last bolt of lightning. 83? Bitao was even more shocked. Then what's with the extra lightning tribulation? He continued asking, if the cleansing of the azure world was to nourish the immortal meridian, why did they stop everyone from ascending? Was it because they were afraid that the upper realm would discover the secret of the azure world? Since even he knew about this, it meant that this was not a secret in the upper realm at all. Because of law. Bitao frowned. A moment later he said in a low voice, although this place is called the Azure World in the upper world, this is just a small mystic realm created by the Abode Lord. That's why no one can say anything about what he does with this place. But if someone ascends, it's different. He pointed to the sky and said, if someone in this realm breaks through and ascends, the heavenly Tao will send down a light of guidance, activating the laws of heaven and earth to guide them to the upper realm. Once someone ascended, this place would completely become a small world, equivalent to one of the 3,000 worlds. In that case, the entrance to the arcane realm controlled by the prefecture master will lose its function. Unless the realm gate is forcefully opened, even immortals from the upper realm will not be able to enter this place. So, in order to prevent the people of this world from ascending, I Ching's expression darkened. He added another lightning tribulation on top of the 9-9 lightning tribulation. Bitao nodded, that's right. The Abode Master ordered people to use heavenly thunder to destroy the immortal bones of those who ascended the immortal realm the moment they formed their immortal bones. In order to prevent him from activating the light of guidance just like I did back then. Didn't you become an immortal? Yu Hong could not help but ask. Was it because of the immortal transformation pill? I Ching suddenly remembered. Yes. Bitao nodded vigorously. It was indeed because of this pill. I was a core cultivator. Back then, my immortal bones were broken and I became a traveling immortal. That's why I've been researching ways to repair my immortal bones. After nearly 10,000 years, I finally managed to refine the immortal transformation pill just as I was nearing the end of my lifespan. Bitao's expression was solemn. He seemed to be thinking about the past. His body trembled slightly before he said, when I came out of seclusion, my immortal bones were already formed and the light of guidance was reduced to half. In order to deceive the heavenly Tao, Abode Master Sunli extracted my life soul and sealed it in the pill room. He then chased it out of the Azure World into a mystic realm. He took a few deep breaths before continuing. He brought my body back to the immortal world with only 2 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls. He wanted to cut off my connection with the Azure World. Because the life soul in the pill room was incomplete, its memories were in a mess. The only thing it could remember was the pill formulas. That was why it thought that it had died a long time ago. So that's why. No wonder he wanted to pass on the legacy to others. That was all he could remember. Exalted Immortal. He turned to look at Shining and said solemnly, your fellow Taoist does not have any immortal qi in his body. I'm afraid he cannot activate the laws and attract the light of guidance. What's more, his immortal bones are already formed. If he doesn't hurry to the immortal world, I'm afraid. How do we get there? Shining frowned. There's an entrance to the immortal world in this world, Bitao said. It's the one in the lower realm. But I don't think it's closed yet. That one? Shining opened the window and pointed to a spot in the sky. It's closed. How could that be? Bitao was shocked. The day of reharvest is not over yet. Although the entrance has always been guarded by Earth Immortals, it shouldn't be. Xinying's figure flashed. A moment later she reappeared. She waved her hand and threw a person out. You mean this one? Bitao, why was the Earth Immortal guarding the entrance here? Sigma, for all, shouldn't he be at the eye of the array formation? Even mystic immortals could not break through that array formation. How could it be, this, what do we do? What do we do? Bitao panicked. He was like an ant on a hot pan. The Earth Immortal guarding the entrance is here. The Qing Tong Immortal Abode will know that something has happened in the Azure World. They will definitely send other immortals down. And they will only send more than this time. Maybe the Abode Lord will come down personally. We're finished? How do we open the door? Shining continued to ask. Exalted Immortal, why don't you understand? Bitao was getting more and more anxious. The entrance can only be opened from the immortal world. Even if it can be opened, it can't be opened now. No matter how powerful she was, she could not be more powerful than the Abode Lord, who was a perfected Stygian immortal. Although the Azure World was only a small world, it was still a mortal world. It could not accommodate too many immortals. Usually, only Earth Immortals could enter and exit the Azure World at will. The others could only enter the Azure World when the immortal meridian was at its strongest once every 1,000 years. The day of reharvest was one of those times. Bitao and Shining had thought that as long as they survived that day, they would not have to worry about the Azure World being destroyed for at least 1,000 years. Perhaps they could think of another way. But now that the Earth Immortal guarding the entrance was here and no one was guarding it, the entrance would naturally close when the time was up. Someone in the Immortal Abode would definitely notice this. If the Abode Lord came down personally, we're finished. The entrance can only be opened from the Immortal World? Of course. In that case. Shining glanced at the person on the bed again. Suddenly she turned to I Ching and said, "Chef, why don't you ascend?" I Ching, Bi Tao, Yu Hong, all the disciples. Sigma for all. Chapter 113. The Immortal World. At the entrance to the Azure World, immortal chi surged. Light filled the sky and thunder rumbled. The overflowing immortal chi looked like it was about to transform into an immortal ascension stage. "What's going on?" asked the steward of the Qing Tong Immortal Abode. "Someone must have ascended from the Azure World mystic realm," answered one of the immortals. "Someone ascended again? Wasn't there only one 4 hours ago?" Perhaps the opening of the entrance affected the immortal chi in the immortal world. From the looks of it, it could be another sword cultivator? When did so many sword cultivators appear in the Azure World? Where are the Earth Immortals guarding the entrance? Why haven't they gone to deal with them? I don't know. The entrance is already closed. They must have left for some time. Ridiculous. The day of reharvest is such an important day and he dares to leave without permission. I will arrange for other immortals to go and stop the ascension stage. Forget it. There were so many immortals descending. Someone will notice and rush over. But the tribulation lightning has already struck 78 times. What? The steward exclaimed. Did none of the world cleansing stage immortals go to stop them? No, nonsense. Go and report this to the Abode Lord. The rest of you follow me to the entrance. He pointed at someone at random and led the other 5 mystic immortals towards the place where the immortal chi was surging. The immortal chi at the entrance was so thick that it was almost solid. Without the suppression of the Earth Immortals guarding the entrance, the immortal chi swirled around and the immortal ascension stage began to take shape. The closed entrance to the Azure World was already cracking. The steward landed on the ground and saw that the tribulation lightning had just struck 80 times. The last heavenly lightning had already formed and was about to strike the tribulation lightning cultivator below. Shocked, he immediately waved his hands to set up an array to suppress the immortal ascension stage that was about to take shape. He opened the entrance and entered the Azure World. He quickly recited an incantation. Considering that the other party was a sword cultivator, he used 90% of his immortal force and struck out a purple heavenly lightning with a hint of red. It followed closely behind the last tribulation lightning. After striking, he did not take a closer look. He turned and joined the 5 behind him, about to seal the entrance to the immortal world that had been opened by the tribulation lightning tribulation. Just as he raised his hand to form a seal, the immortal next to him suddenly looked in his direction with a look of horror. "Steward behind you." The steward was taken aback. Before he could react, a red light flashed behind him. The heavenly lightning that he had just struck suddenly turned around and struck upwards. As if it had come to life, it struck one by one in a circle, wrapping around their waists like a whip. In the next moment, they felt their bodies sink and a whooshing sound rang out beside their ears. Along with the steward, the few Xian immortals were pulled straight down the entrance like a string of gourds. Without the suppression of the array formation, the immortal ascension stage instantly took shape. The golden light of guidance soared into the sky and instantly turned the entire Qing Tong Immortal Abode golden. Sun Li, who was sitting in the main hall, suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the golden light that had already shone into the hall. Light of guidance? What's going on? His voice was low and spread throughout the entire immortal abode. The Stygian immortal's immortal aura immediately enveloped a radius of 100 miles. My lord. The immortal who had come to report the news had just arrived outside the hall. He quickly walked in and said nervously, "In the Azure World, there is a sword cultivator who has just ascended. Steward has already brought people to suppress him. Perhaps they did not make it in time." Xiao is getting more and more inattentive. Sun Li's expression darkened. He waved his hand and a beam of dermic light flew out. In an instant, a huge array formation appeared in the sky, suppressing the spreading golden light. Then he ordered in a low voice, "Go to the reception hall and get a few people to destroy the immortal ascension stage. As for that ascended cultivator, we cannot let him enter the immortal world in one piece. Shatter his immortal bones, extract his life spirit and seal it in the immortal world." Yes. The immortal bowed and retreated. In less than half an incense stick's time, he tumbled back into the room. My lord, bad news. He's coming up. What? Sun Li was shocked. Even the reception hall could not stop the ascended cultivator from entering the immortal world? No, they could not stop him, but that's not a human. What nonsense is this? Sun Li frowned and his expression darkened. Why are you panicking? What exactly happened? With that, he cast a mind-cleansing spell. The immortal world, the immortal world. The immortal did not stop panicking. He pointed outside and said, something terrible has come up. What's terrible? Sun Li was about to ask. Suddenly the earth shook, and with a rumbling sound, cracks the width of a palm appeared on the ground. They spread in all directions and even the main hall began to shake. Sun Li was shocked. In a flash, he flew out of the hall and stood upright in the air. It was only then that he realized that starting from the newly formed immortal ascension stage, the entire Qing Tong immortal abode began to crack like a broken mirror. The original immortal palace residence had been toppled. Hundreds of immortals flew out one after another. The golden light that was originally only one beam began to seep out from the cracks, covering the entire immortal realm. The entire world was illuminated by the golden light. What exactly was going on? The golden light around them grew brighter and brighter. The suppression array that he had set up had long been broken and could no longer be suppressed. Sun Li's eyes widened. Before he could figure out what was happening, the immortal who came to report suddenly pointed to the center and said, Master, that thing is coming up. He turned to look and saw that the ground had already collapsed, leaving behind only cracks. In the center of the Qing Tong immortal abode, a piece suddenly protruded upwards. It grew taller and taller as if something huge was burrowing out from below. The ground shook even more violently. With a loud rumble, gravel flew all over the sky. A huge object broke out from the center of the ground and flew more than 100 feet into the sky. With a loud bang, it landed firmly on the original Qing Tong immortal abode, causing the ground to shake again. Suddenly, a lush green field appeared in front of them. What did they see? The azure world had ascended, a spirit mountain. Before they could react, a lazy voice suddenly sounded, Well, which one of you is the Stygian immortal Sun? Sun what again? Sun Li, a voice reminded them. Oh yes, Sun Li. Only then did everyone realize that there were 3 people standing side by side on the peak of the mountain. There were 2 men and 1 woman. The one who spoke was the woman in the middle. Who is Sun Li? Shining asked again. Perhaps they were shocked by the spirit mountain's ascension. The immortals in the sky subconsciously turned to look at the person in the middle. Looks like it's you. Xinying's eyes narrowed slightly. Then she looked at Sun Li. Well, I came up to tell you something. From today onwards. She suddenly took a step forward and said word by word. In the name of freedom, the azure world is independent. Chapter 114. Sun Li ignored Shining and looked at I Ching. His eyes widened. You've successfully ascended. The immortal meridian. Shocked, he subconsciously tried to conjure a seal to open the entrance to the azure world, only to find that he had completely lost contact with the mystic realm that he could have easily opened. His face immediately darkened. He was so angry that his face contorted. The immortal meridian that he had nurtured for hundreds of thousands of years, the azure world that he had painstakingly created, the azure world that he had expended his cultivation to bring in all the living beings, had actually become one of the 3,000 mortal realms. He had completely lost contact with it. Damn it. Mere ants from the lower realms dare to destroy my secret realm and sever my immortal meridian. His eyes turned bloodshot as he glared at I Ching. Do you think you'll have nothing to worry about after ascending to the immortal realm? If I don't allow it, even if you become immortals, you can forget about living forever. He gestured to the people behind him and said through gritted teeth, Crush the bones and souls of everyone on this peak. As for that sword cultivator who damaged my immortal meridian, this seat will deal with him personally. As soon as he finished speaking, immortal chi erupted from his entire body. He summoned his immortal artifact and charged forward. The immense amount of immortal chi around him caused even the immortals beside him to be shaken away. The immortal pressure was no longer restrained and was pressing down on the other side. Just as the sword in his hand was about to stab the other party, suddenly his hand tightened, and the figure that had just rushed out was pulled back. The woman who had just shouted had appeared beside him at some point and was smiling at him inexplicably. I'm sorry, I was the one who came up with the idea of ascension. You've got the wrong person to settle the score with, she said slowly. If you want to settle the score, I'll cooperate with you. After returning to the immortal realm, Bitao spent an entire hour in a daze. As for Shen Ying's idea of using ascension to open the door to the immortal realm, he was vehemently against it at first. Wasn't that courting death? Let's not talk about whether the Qing Tong immortal abode would discover that all the immortals from the lower realm had perished by the time they arrived. The upper realm would never allow anyone to complete the Ascension Thunder Tribulation. They would try their best to destroy the immortal ascension stage. Therefore, it was impossible for him to ascend. But he really succeeded. After the 81st Lightning Tribulation, the Lightning Tribulation imposed by the upper realm was something that even he could not withstand. Shen Ying casually grabbed it and effortlessly caught it in her hands. That's right, capture. That was a lightning bolt, not a whip or an artifact. Even now, he still couldn't figure out how he had managed to grab hold of this formless lightning. Not only that, but with just a flick of her hand, she pulled down a bunch of Shen immortals from the sky and easily crippled their immortal bones. One of them was even the manager of the immortal abode. How could this be possible? He simply didn't dare believe his eyes, and everything that happened next overturned his understanding of the word powerful. Sect leader, you and the two elders can ascend in peace. We will definitely work hard to cultivate and come to the upper realm to look for you as soon as possible. Yu Hong looked at the descending light of guidance and was both happy and reluctant to part. She took a deep breath and held back her tears as she said goodbye. The eyes of the disciples behind him also reddened. He opened his eyes wide and stared at Shen Ying, not daring to blink. It was as if he wanted to carve her image into his heart. Shen Ying nodded. Goodbye. When I'm not around, all of you have to be careful. She nodded vigorously. Sect leader, you have to take care of yourself too. After we ascend, we will continue to help you clean your room. What? Clean? Shen Ying paused. She seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly, she stepped forward and grabbed Yu Hong's hand. With a serious expression on her face, she said, I think that we don't even have a visa in the immortal Azure realm. It's really inconvenient for us to stay in touch. Why don't we emigrate together? Bitao didn't understand what she meant by emigrating, but he watched as Shen Ying suddenly jumped to the realm gate in the sky. Then she expanded the realm gate that was only the size of a person by a few hundred times. She did it with her bare hands. Then she jumped down from the invincible sect and kicked the entire sect, which was enveloped by the light of guidance, up into the upper realm. It was really a kick. She didn't even give it a second kick. By the time he reacted, the entire invincible sect had already turned the Qing Tong immortal abode into a pile of rubble. In the immortal realm, he had seen countless immortals who ascended. It was not uncommon for them to bring people with them, as long as they could withstand twice the amount of lightning tribulation. Some of them ascended with their Tao partners, some with their children, some with their masters, and some with their friends. But he had never seen anyone bring an entire sect with them. And it wasn't just people either. They even brought their own territory. Bitao felt that his common sense was being put to the test. He must be dreaming. Yes, that must be it. It was normal to see unimaginable things in dreams. So compared to bringing their own territory and raising their whole sect to immortality, there were hundreds of immortals in the Qing Tong immortal abode. It was very normal for them to be wiped out in less than 5 minutes. As for Stygian immortal Sun Li, yes, he was the first to fall. Straight face, she became so powerful that even an immortal emperor would find it hard to defeat her, much less a Stygian immortal like Sun Li. At least, he had never heard of an immortal emperor who had the ability to tear the realm gate apart with their bare hands. Unless, suddenly he turned around and slammed his palms on the table. Exalted immortal. Shen Ying jumped. She looked down at his hands and frowned. Are you a divine being? Other than the divine beings who were more powerful than immortals, no one else had such power. Are you crazy? The corner of Shen Ying's mouth twitched. She raised her chopsticks and knocked them against Bitao's hands. My dishes. Bitao paused. Only then did he realize that his hands had landed on 2 bowls of food. The 2 dishes were now a mess. Master, do we need to deal with this disrespectful person? I Ching summoned his sword. Wait, I didn't do it on purpose. Bitao's face paled. He quickly took a step back. I'll pay for it. I have immortal stones. He immediately took out his bag. Shen Ying nodded. I Ching kept his sword. Yes, Father Niu had his first investment in the immortal world. Exalted immortal, are you really not a divine being? Bitao did not give up. He looked her up and down. That's not right. He had clearly heard from the steward that a divine race had come to the Azure world hundreds of thousands of years ago. That cowardly Sun Li was afraid that it would discover the truth about the Azure world. That was why, for the past hundreds of thousands of years, apart from the Earth Immortals guarding the gate to prevent people from the lower realms from ascending, no one was allowed to enter the Azure world. They even delayed the day of reharvest by a few thousand years. Only after confirming that the person had left the Azure world did they reactivate the day of reharvest. He had thought that the divine being had not left, and that it was exalted immortal Shen himself. Bitao was even more confused now. Lone Moon, who had finally woken up, felt the immortal chi around him the moment he woke up. It was obvious that he had ascended to the immortal realm. But this familiar room, the familiar furnishings, and the sect disciples who passed by and greeted him, what the hell? Wasn't he supposed to be the first person in Invincible sect to pass the Ascension Tribulation before a certain cheat and chef? Why did the entire sect, including the land, ascend to the immortal realm when I woke up? Damn it, give me back my sense of superiority. For all, Ngunguo. Chapter 115. Shining, hurry up and tidy up the house after you finish eating. Lone Moon rushed in and said to a certain foodie who was eating, I've already made the arrangements. Later, Yuhong will bring some disciples over to help you move your things to the West Hall. You'll be staying there from now on. Shining paused. What? Why did he have to move all of a sudden? It was so troublesome. Isn't there an immortal mansion at the foot of the mountain? I've just looked. The position of your house is just right. If we set up an array and dig down, we can reach the center of the immortal abode. Why does it have to go straight to the immortal mansion? Wasn't it already flattened? What else could it be? Of course it was to pick up scraps. Don't you usually loot from monsters? That makes sense. Lone Moon rolled his eyes at her, his face full of resentment. I say you're a sect master after all. Can't you put more effort into the sect? Don't you know that after ascending, all the magic tools, spirit stones and elixirs in the lower realm can't be used? Now there are so many people from Invincible sect in the upper world. If he didn't pick up the leftovers, would he be waiting to starve? He turned his head and looked to the right. Who is this guy? Where did you pick it up from? Can you lessen the burden on the sect? Bitao, this is floaty. I don't care what you're talking about. Throw it back where you picked it up from. Lone Moon's heart was filled with frustration. Not only did he wake up to find that the entire sect had ascended, all the wealth he had accumulated over the years had actually become useless. Now that he was back to square one, he was about to go crazy from anxiety. However, the person who should be the most anxious was still sitting here eating. The sect doesn't have the money to support idlers now. That. Fellow immortal, I am Bitao. We met at the mystic realm before. Bitao coughed awkwardly and explained his situation. You're the immortal soul that gave me an outdated inheritance? Can you not mention the word, outdated? Lone Moon glanced at him and seemed to have thought of something. His eyes lit up. With a turn of her hand, she plucked the radish from her thigh and stuffed it into his arms. Perfect. Since you intend to stay in Invincible sect, you should contribute to this sect. It's time to test your ability. Take it with you and refine more immortal pills. Refine whichever is more expensive. Gee. Radish stared blankly at Bitao. Then it made a clear sound, pooey. Another ugly bastard. Bitao, did the people of Invincible sect all make full use of their resources? Lone Moon continued to look at Shining. Shining, what are your plans for the sect? Plans? Shining paused. Don't tell me you don't have any plans at all? The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. The veins on his forehead were about to explode. You should at least have a plan, right? Should I stay here or find another place? What about the new disciples in the sect? Don't pretend. When I fainted, didn't you think everything through? You've even solved the problem of destroying the world. Hurry up and use your brain. Huh? Shining frowned. It was tiring to use her brain. A moment later, she patted Lone Moon's shoulder and said seriously, Father Nyo, I have faith in you. With Father Nyo around, why would she need her brain? Throw it away. Get lost. Lone Moon's expression darkened. I'm not your nanny. Don't say I didn't warn you. We know nothing about the immortal realm. On the surface, the problem of the Azure world has been solved. But Sun Li has been in the immortal realm for so many years. Who knows if any of his relatives or friends will come looking for him? I'm afraid. You don't have to worry about that. Bitao stepped forward and said, The Qing Tong immortal abode belongs to Chu Shuang City and is located at the edge of the city where the immortal qi is thin. What's more, although Sun Li's immortal meridian is no secret, He doesn't want too many people to know that he's using living beings to nourish his immortal meridian. That's why he doesn't interact with other immortals. All we have to do is register our sect in Chushuang City and make offerings on time. Then Chushuang City will not interfere with the private fights between immortals. Make offerings? Lone Moon frowned. Explain. What do you mean? Bitao nodded. Then he explained the situation in the immortal realm to Lone Moon. All in all, the immortal abode they were in now was just a small, unremarkable place in the immortal realm. We are now in the Fengtsang continent, in the country of Chonglan and in Chushuang City under Changyan Immortal Prefecture. Any immortal who has ascended to the immortal realm can set up an immortal abode and accept disciples. There are thousands of immortal abodes in Chushuang City. The Qingtong Immortal Abode is one of them. The entire Chushuang City belongs to the city lord. If you want to set up an immortal abode here, you have to offer a certain amount of immortal stones to the city lord every year. There's an immortal meridian under Chushuang City. The closer you are to the city, the thicker the immortal qi. Although the Qingtong Immortal Abode is a first-class immortal abode, it's located far away from the city. That's why it doesn't offer many immortal stones every year. What about the Stygian Immortal you mentioned? Lone Moon asked. The immortal realm is the same as the mortal realm. We also need to raise our cultivation level, Bitao continued. There are 8 big realms in total. They are Earth Immortal, Golden Immortal, Mystic Immortal, Stygian Immortal and Exalted Immortal. Most people who have just formed their immortal bones and ascend to the immortal realm are Earth Immortals. Only Stygian Immortals can become emperors. Emperors are divided into young emperors, immortal emperors and celestial emperors. Once you become emperors, you can build your own country. The king of Chonglan is immortal Emperor Guyu. Celestial emperors are above immortal emperors. They are the true masters of a continent. There are 10 celestial emperors in the immortal realm. Each of them occupies one of the 4 seas and 6 continents. You mean to say? Shining said as she ate, we're just a small mountain village? As long as we pay our taxes on time, no one cares who lives here. You can say that. Bitao nodded. Lone Moon heaved a sigh of relief. After thinking for a moment, he continued, those who form their immortal bones are Earth Immortals. What will happen to the disciples who have not undergone the lightning tribulation of immortal ascension without immortal bones? Don't worry, fellow immortal. This is easy to solve. Bitao explained, as long as they soak in the immortal transformation pool, the water will wash away their mortal bodies and form their immortal bones. However, their current cultivation levels are not high enough to withstand the power of becoming immortals. At the very least, they will have to wait until their cultivation levels reach the nascent soul stage before they can enter the pool. Where is the immortal transformation pool? Lone Moon asked. Fellow immortal, you have misunderstood. The water in the immortal transformation pool is actually water condensed from immortal qi. Just dig a pool and set up an immortal gathering array. The immortal qi in the immortal realm is denser than spirit qi. What's more, there won't be any lightning tribulation in the lower realm. These disciples will only need a few decades to become Earth Immortals. Lone Moon frowned. They would be able to ascend in just a few decades. He had worked so hard for hundreds of years. Now that he was back to square one, his heart ached even more. Great Immortal Shin, we have to go to Chushuang City to register ourselves during the next offering ceremony. That way, Invincible Sect will be considered an official immortal sect here. When is the next offering ceremony? It has always been at the beginning of March. He counted on his fingers and suddenly paused. His eyes widened and he said, I think it will be tomorrow. Shit, why didn't you say so earlier? He turned and rushed out. Soon he returned with tens of disciples. Pointing to the side hall, he said, quick, don't worry about it anymore. Dig as hard as you can. Don't miss a single immortal stone. Shining. Chapter 116. Chushuang City. Invincible Sect? The immortal in charge of registration looked at the document in his hand, then at the 3 people in front of him. Finally, he could not help but ask, you really want to start a sect? Yes. Just you 2 Earth Immortals and a... The immortal glanced at Shining, who was beside him. He could not tell what her cultivation level was. His eyes widened and his face was filled with the words, are you stupid? Although it was not rare to start a sect, they had to hand over at least 200 superior grade immortal stones every year. This amount of immortal stones was not much to a sect, but to ordinary cultivators, it was a lot of money. That was why only those who had a rich family background or a strong enough backer would do this. What's more, the person who started a sect was usually at least a mystic immortal. Of the people in front of him, 2 were obviously earth immortals who had just ascended. There was still the aura of the lightning tribulation on them. The other was not even an earth immortal. It was obvious that he had been brought to the upper realm. It was just these 3 people, yet they wanted to establish a sect. Could it be that they had too many immortal stones making them feel uncomfortable? Are you sure? He asked again. The corner of Loneman's mouth twitched. He forced himself to nod again. Yes. He took out a bag of superior-grade immortal stones and handed it over. Thank you, fellow immortal. The immortal took the immortal stones and looked at them as if they were idiots. Then he picked up the completed document, conjured a seal, and muttered something. With a shake of the paper, the lines of words immediately flew up from the paper and directly into a huge immortal wall behind him, disappearing into it. Then a light flashed and the name Invincible Sect appeared on the stone wall. It was the same as the names of the other immortal abodes, occupying a small space. All right, remember to come once a year, the immortal reminded them. Then he added, if you run out of immortal stones, you can come and cancel it at any time. Thank you. Lone Moon bowed politely. Then he pulled Shining and I Ching out of the door. This was the first time in his 2 lifetimes that he was facing a financial crisis. He had thought that the Qing Tong immortal abode would be able to support so many immortals. But when he dug underground he found out that Sun Li was just a pauper. All the immortal stones in the immortal mansion's secret vault added up to less than 1,000 immortal stones, which was only enough to pay taxes for 2 years. They did not know how Sun Li, the prefecture master, had managed to secure his position in the upper realm. Most likely, all of his immortal stones were spent on nurturing his immortal meridians. Lone Moon felt a slight headache. Although there were many people in the upper realm this time, they were all level 0 smurfs. No one had the skills to earn money. Even the priceless spirit herbs in the sect were nothing in front of the immortal world filled with immortal herbs. He had hoped that Bitao, an alchemy immortal, would be of some use. In the end, he found out that his pill concocting skills could only be considered entry-level in the celestial world. Only the disciples in the sect could eat the pills that were slightly effective. Forget about selling them for immortal stones, even if he gave them away for free no one would want them. It was urgent. He had to find a way to earn money. He looked around. Even though Chushuang City was just a small celestial city, it covered a vast area. It was several times larger than the cities of the aristocratic families in the lower bound. As long as he looked carefully, he would definitely be able to find a business opportunity. Let's split up here. He casually scanned the streets, then turned to the person beside him and made arrangements. I Ching, you're more familiar with refining weapons. Go and find out about the situation of the immortal weapons here, as well as the prices of some materials, the sales model and so on. I Ching nodded. Leave the rest to me. Later we'll compare and see which one is more profitable. We'll gather in front of the city gates in 2 hours. Shining will follow. Lone Moon subconsciously turned to look, only to find that there was no one beside him. There was a huge empty space in the middle. The person who had been following him a moment ago had disappeared. Where is she? I Ching, holy shit. How did that person with a poor sense of direction suddenly disappear between the 2 of them? In a dark alley 3 streets away. More than 10 men in black were squatting in the corner of the alley, avoiding the crowd. The leader of the group instructed in a low voice, when the sky turns dark, we'll act according to plan. Remember, our goal is to find someone. Once we find her, we'll leave immediately. Everyone nodded. The city lord's abode is heavily guarded. This is a map. Remember the location you're searching for. The man's palm moved. Instantly, a virtual image of a map appeared in his hand. He raised his hand and paused in front of everyone. Listen to my signal. Do you remember? I don't. Shining raised a hand weakly. The man was stunned. He turned and glared at her. He moved the map closer to her and said unhappily, you can't even remember this. Look carefully and remember. Who on earth pulled you into this operation? You pulled me here. She looked at the black clothes she was wearing. Just now at the door he was the one who pulled her away. The man was stunned. He glanced at her as if trying to remember when he had met such a person. But he couldn't remember. He didn't mind. He pointed to a spot on the map and said, here, you go in from here. The person should be in the side courtyard. Don't go to the main courtyard. The people there are not people we Earth immortals can handle. Oh. She nodded. And then? Remember, don't alert anyone. The man repeated. After you find the person, retreat. Everyone meet at the Black Forest outside the city. There will be people there to receive you. Yes. Everyone replied in a low voice. The leader looked at the darkening sky and said, "Time's up." Then he conjured a seal with both hands. In a short while, a teleportation array appeared under everyone's feet. The scenery in front of them flashed. In the next moment they appeared in a courtyard. The leader gave each of them an immortal talisman. This can hide your aura. Those below the Stygian immortal level will not be able to detect you. Let's go. Everyone nodded, and their figures flashed as they disappeared on the spot. Shining? Who exactly are we looking for? Should I cooperate with them first? She looked around blankly and randomly chose a direction. Just as she was about to leave, someone pulled her back. Wait, come back. The leader pulled her back and pointed to the right. You're this way. What's going on? Didn't you look at the map several times? Remember, don't alert anyone. Actually, I'm not. I'm not one of you? Shining was about to explain. The man's expression suddenly changed. He interrupted her and said, "Someone's coming. Stick the talisman and leave." With that said, his figure flashed and disappeared. Shining, she could vaguely see the flames of Father Nyo's anger. She looked down at the black clothes she was wearing. She seriously thought about wearing something brighter next time. That would make her look less like the work clothes of a criminal gang. Of course, the most important thing now was, where was this? What happened to the gang? Did they just take people but not bring them along? Shining sighed and turned to walk out of the arched door on the left. Forget it, I'll look for them myself. Hopefully Father Nyo would not deduct her food expenses. She thought about what that group of people said just now. It seemed that as long as she did not alert, "Who are you?" Just as she stepped through the door, a childish voice suddenly sounded. With a swoosh, dozens of swords made of immortal chi stabbed into the ground in front of her. Shining. In the next moment, she picked up the talisman in her hand and pressed it on her chest. The newcomer. Sticking an aura-concealing talisman now? Do you think I'm blind? Chapter 117. Who are you? What are you trying to do by barging into the City Lord Manor? With a flick of his hand, an immortal sword flew up and stopped less than 2 fingers wide in front of Shining. He said sternly, "Speak." Shining paused. "Would you believe me if I said I was lost? Lost in someone else's manor?" The man frowned and snorted. You're dressed in black and you're an earth immortal who just ascended. Don't think I don't know why you're here." That? This was really just an ordinary black robe. I advise you to leave quickly. Don't even think about doing anything to the Heavenly Tower. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Heavenly Tower? Shining paused and looked behind him. Indeed, there was a tall building. It was pitch black and seemed to blend in with the night sky. If one did not look closely, one would not be able to see it. It's not easy for you to cultivate and you've just ascended. As long as you surrender, the City Lord will be lenient towards you, the man said in a low voice, releasing his immortal pressure. Shining tilted her head but did not reply. She glanced behind him and suddenly said, "Well, do you know where the door is? Are you still thinking of escaping?" The man frowned and glared at her. "There are many experts in the City Lord Manor. You'll be taken down before you even reach the front yard." "Oh. If you understand, you'd better." "Wait, what are you doing?" Before he could finish speaking, the person opposite him suddenly walked straight toward him. The man's face paled and he shouted anxiously, "Stop right there. Don't come any closer. Do you hear me?" Shining ignored him. She stepped out of the ground full of immortal swords as if they were nothing. She walked towards him and passed right through his body. Suddenly, the tall and handsome man's figure dissipated like smoke. But the voice did not stop. He shouted anxiously, "Stop right there. Don't go near the Heavenly Tower. Do you hear me? I say." Shining did not listen to him. Instead, she walked towards the tall building and pushed the door open. She said to the little figure sitting inside, "Little friend, next time you lie to people, remember to disguise your voice." It was a strong young man in his 20s, but he had a childish voice and it came from behind. She gave this dubbing a 0. You. Sitting cross-legged in the middle of the room, the blue-clothed child's face was full of panic. His little hand trembled as he pointed at her in disbelief. "How did you break through the defensive array outside the door in my phantom?" Shining was stunned for a moment. Putting aside the fact that the phantom had failed, was there such a thing as a defense array? "I say, little friend." She walked straight in and saw that the child was trying to crawl back in fear. She couldn't help but reach out and pull him back. "Don't be afraid." Auntie just wants to ask you for directions. Tell me where the door is. You? The child's eyes widened and he glanced at her suspiciously. Are you really just asking for directions? Yes. She nodded seriously to show that she was not a strange auntie. If you're willing, you can also tell me the direction of the city gate. You're not going to catch me? The child was even more confused. His little face was full of surprise. Why would I catch you? She spread her hands. The child was even more shocked. You really aren't here to take me away? Yes. She nodded hard and added, I'm quite poor. I can't afford to raise a child for the time being. Really? Really? I promise in the name of Ultraman. Is that okay? Tell me where the door is? What was Ultraman? The child was stunned for a moment. He let down his guard and glanced at her again before saying slowly, This is the side courtyard at the back of the City Lord Manor. Behind it is a mortal slaying cliff. There's no exit. If you want to leave, you can only go through the front courtyard. She nodded. Thank you, little friend. She was about to get up. Wait. The child suddenly pulled her back. He hesitated for a moment before saying, Well, you'd better go out later. My father and grandfather are in the front courtyard subduing demons. If you go out from here, they'll think you're an accomplice of the demon race and kill you together. He looked at her worriedly. He suddenly thought of something and immediately retorted, I'm only reminding you because you're not particularly bad. All right, thank you. Shining smiled and reached out to rub his head. She thought for a moment and reminded him, Well, there are more than 10 people outside. They're dressed in the same black as me. They're real human traffickers. For safety's sake, you'd better hurry to the front courtyard to find your father and grandfather. There are people in the side courtyard. The child was shocked. Are they all Earth immortals? I think so, she said, completely unreadable. No wonder they can come in here. The array formation in the courtyard was targeted at immortal chi. The Earth immortals who had just ascended still had some spirit chi. The immortal chi was not thick, so they could enter here without being detected by the array formation. Why don't you come with me? She suggested. The child's expression darkened. Even the light in his eyes dimmed. He pointed to his feet, feeling wronged. I can't leave this array formation. Array formation? She looked down. Indeed, there was an array formation less than a meter in diameter where the child was sitting. If she did not look closely, she would not be able to see it. My grandfather set up a defensive array formation in Zhongguang building. Even Earth immortals would not be able to enter this building easily. He looked proud. After thinking for a moment, he added, You don't count. Once the matter in the front courtyard is settled, they'll. Before he could finish speaking, the ground suddenly shook. There was a loud boom from the right like the sound of something exploding. Shen Ying subconsciously stood up and looked outside, only to see that a sky full of black fog had suddenly appeared outside the courtyard, continuously surging towards them. In less than a moment, the area in front of them was pitch black, even the moonlight could not be seen. The black chi squeezed in through the gaps in the door and the windows, bringing with it a bone-chilling cold. The temperature of the entire room dropped. The ground shook even more violently. There were signs that the building was going to collapse. Shining could not help but widen her eyes. What a huge fog. I say, little Peng. Instinctively, she wanted to warn the child behind her, but found that his face had suddenly turned pale. Large beads of sweat were dripping from his forehead, as if he was suffering from some kind of pain. What's going on? Little friend, are you all right? Don't scare me. The child's expression became more and more painful. His entire body was curled up into a ball. Blood kept seeping out of his body as he screamed in pain. Just as she was about to carry him, the array formation under his feet suddenly lit up. A pillar of light shot up into the sky. It broke through the roof and the entire house collapsed. The light around him grew brighter and brighter. Suddenly, the entire night sky was lit up. Shen Ying's heart skipped a beat. This child's parents wouldn't beat her up, would they? Chapter 118. Inside Chushuang City. Have you found her? Lone Moon asked. She's not in the west? I Ching shook his head. I'll go to the east. Forget it. Lone Moon pulled him back. You know that your master has an invisibility attribute. Unless she takes the initiative to look for us, it won't be easy for us to find her. But, master doesn't know the way? I Ching reminded him. The corner of his mouth twitched. For the 101st time he wanted to beat someone up. There's no other way now. We can only wait and see. Wait? I Ching hesitated. Wait for what? Wait for something to happen. Lone Moon gritted his teeth. Don't you know what kind of person your master is? Wherever she is, nothing good will happen. Maybe now. Rumble. Before he could finish speaking, there was a loud noise from the east. The whole of Chushuang City shook. Large amounts of black qi suddenly appeared out of nowhere and covered the entire east city. Master's aura is coming from that direction. I Ching was delighted. He flew over on his sword. Indeed. Lone Moon frowned. He turned to look east. He knew it would be like this. He had no choice but to follow. He saw many immortals flying out from that direction, their faces filled with fear. They cried out as they flew. Demonic qi, such strong demonic qi. Yes, the direction of the City Lord residence. The demons are attacking the City Lord residence. City Lord residence. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. 10,000 horses galloped through his heart. It's the City Lord residence. That foodie has another name, discomfort if he doesn't cause trouble, right? He actually went to the City Lord residence. The two of them flew all the way to the east of the city. From afar they saw immortals fighting in an immortal residence. There was light from spells everywhere. These people looked to be at least as strong as the two of them. Especially the one in the middle. The immortal qi on his body was several times stronger than Sun Li's. He was fighting with a person wrapped in black qi. That person seemed to be invisible. No matter what the other party attacked, they could not hit him. Moreover, he hid in the black qi from time to time. The black qi was getting thicker. They were just at the edge, but they already felt uncomfortable. Help! I Ching said and rushed in directly. Lone Moon gritted his teeth and followed them in. The sword qi in his hand immediately swept towards the black fog, forcing it back several feet. He pulled out an azure-robed immortal, who was about to be swallowed by the black fog, and retreated back into the protective array formation. You are. That person was stunned and looked at the two of them in surprise. After the demonic aura appeared, everyone except the people from the City Lord's mansion rushed to fly out. He didn't expect that someone would rush in to help. Although they were only earth immortals, their sword qi could repel the demonic qi. Could it be? Before that person could ask in detail, the devil qi surged up again. He had no choice but to join the battle again. He dispersed the wind blades formed by the devil qi and prevented the devil qi from destroying the defensive array formation. However, this couldn't go on. Not long after, the immortal fighting the black shadow was struck by a strand of demonic energy and fell to the ground. Ancestor! Everyone exclaimed. His entire left shoulder was instantly corroded by the devil qi, revealing the bones. He immediately cut off his entire left hand with a sword, then performed a hand seal to stop the endless flow of blood from the wound. However, with this delay, the black shadow had already rushed over and was about to pounce on that person. Suddenly, a strand of sword qi struck the black shadow. The black shadow trembled, let out a muffled grunt, and retreated in an instant. The person fighting the black shadow was shocked. He looked down at the few drops of black blood on the ground, which still carried demonic qi. He looked at I Ching in surprise and asked, how did he hit the demon? I Ching seemed to understand what he wanted to ask. As he blocked the black qi, he replied, my master said that the demon is not invisible. The key is speed. That person was stunned for a moment, then he said, thank you. As he said this, his figure flashed and he flew towards the black shadow again. This time he no longer defended passively. Instead he attacked as fast as he could. Indeed, the demon could no longer hide in the black qi and was forced to retreat. Just as he was about to take down the demon, a white light suddenly broke through the layers of demonic qi and shot up into the sky. Instantly, it lit up the entire night sky. The sky was filled with sword qi that swept across the entire Chushuang city. Little one, the immortal fighting him, was shocked. In the time that he was distracted, the demon in the black qi had already escaped. This sword qi is... The green-robed immortal that Lone Moon had just saved turned pale. He looked up at the immortal in the sky and said, Father, could it be that little one has already... That person frowned and was about to fly towards the white light when I Ching looked at the white light and suddenly said, Primordial Soul Sword Qi. The person who was about to fly away stopped in his tracks and turned back to look at I Ching in surprise. You know him. Suddenly, as if thinking of something, he said, Could it be that you are also a sword cultivator? I Ching nodded and flew up on his sword. Let's go over first. A look of ecstasy flashed across the father and son's faces. They hurriedly flew in front to lead the way. Lone Moon frowned and followed. He nudged I Ching and said in a low voice, "What is primordial soul sword chi?" He was a sword cultivator too. Why had he never heard of it? It is a sword chi that is carried in one's blood since birth. The higher one's cultivation level, the more sword chi there is. If one can use it, it will be beneficial to one's cultivation level. If not, it will backfire on one's body. He explained as he flew, this kind of sword chi can only be found in those who are born with a sword body. Lone Moon finally understood. So that's how it is. Another born with a sword body. The few of them flew all the way to the place where the white light was the brightest. That place was already in ruins. Beside the blinding white light, there was a black figure standing, staring blankly at the white light. "Who are you?" The immortal who was fighting with the fiendish cultivator shouted. He did not expect there to be someone else here. "Why would, Master?" Before he could finish, I Ching, who was behind him, rushed over first. He looked at the woman on the ground with a look of surprise. "Are you all right?" Shining nodded. She was just a little hungry after walking. "This is..." I Ching looked around. There were more than 10 unconscious immortals in black lying on the ground. Shining was stepping on one of them. "Oh, just a few human traffickers." She pointed to the center of the white light. "They wanted to kidnap children, so I casually..." I Ching paused. He was about to ask for more details. The immortal in green looked at the white light anxiously. Suddenly he turned to I Ching and knelt down. "Sword immortal, please save my son. His body constitution is the same as yours. Only you can help him remove the primordial soul sword chi from his body. As long as you are willing to save him, I, Bao Feiping, am willing to pay any price." I Ching turned to look at the small figure in the white light. He frowned. This was a child who looked less than 10 years old, but his cultivation level was already close to breaking through to the earth immortal level. No wonder his body could not withstand such a huge amount of primordial soul sword chi. If this went on, he would die from the backlash of his own sword chi. Bao Feiping helped the person on the ground up. In a low voice he said, "Don't stand on ceremony, fellow immortal. I will try my best. However, your son is too young and his primordial soul sword chi has been suppressed for too long. I cannot guarantee that I will be able to remove all the sword chi from his body. Fellow immortal, rest assured and try." Bao Feiping cupped his fists and said, "No matter what the result is, we will be grateful to you." I Ching nodded. He was just about to walk into the white light when Shining pulled him back. "Master." Shining instructed, "Be careful. Come out early." "Yes, Master." I Ching was overjoyed. Indeed, Master cared about him the most. He was touched. "Shining, sigh, it looks like dinner will have to be delayed again." Lone Moon, on the other hand, looked at the other two people in the room thoughtfully. "Bao Feiping? Wasn't that the name of City Lord Chu Shuang? Big business. Oh." Chapter 119. I Ching walked directly into the pillar of light. The violent sword chi suddenly stopped, as if it had no intention of attacking. Instead, it automatically circled around I Ching's body, as if it was intimate with him. He walked directly behind the child and sat down cross-legged. In the next moment, an even more powerful sword chi erupted from his body, forming a long white dragon that circled around the pillar of light. It circled around the beam of light, and after a while the beam of light seemed to be shrinking. Bao Feiping's tensed heart finally relaxed a little. He could not help but sigh. Although they were ambushed by the demons, it was a blessing in disguise. He did not expect that the sword immortal he had been searching for so many years would actually deliver himself to his doorstep. It was not time for little one to die. "Don't worry, City Lord." Lone Moon's eyes brightened. He stepped forward and said, "My good friend has always been reliable. Your son should be fine. It will take some time to remove the sword chi. Both of you were injured during the battle with the demons. It would be better for you to rest for a while." Bao Feiping paused. He looked at the man beside him who had lost his left arm. His face paled and he hurriedly stepped forward. "Father, are you all right?" "I'm fine." The immortal pressed his hand down and looked at his grandson in the pillar of light. "I'll be fine after meditating for a while." With that, he sat down and closed his eyes to meditate. He used his immortal chi to regrow his arm. Seeing that Lone Moon's breathing had stabilized, Bao Feiping took a step back and turned to face Lone Moon. He cupped his fists and bowed. "Thank you for your help today, fellow immortals. The Bao family will never forget your kindness. How should I address you?" "We are from the Invincible Sect." Lone Moon smiled even more warmly. He pointed to the man in the pillar of light and said, "His name is I Ching. The one beside him is Shining. My name is Lone Moon. We are both Earth Immortals who have just ascended." Bao Feiping paused. They were indeed Earth Immortals who had just ascended, but he had never heard of the Invincible sect. Could it be a newly established sect? Bao Feiping was confused, but he did not want to ask directly. Instead he said politely, "If not for the two of you today, Chushuang City would have suffered heavy losses. It might even have fallen into the hands of the demons." City Lord is too polite. Lone Moon took another look at the child in the pillar of light. He could not help but ask, "I just don't understand. This primordial soul sword chi is supposed to be in the bloodline of sword cultivators at birth. By right it should only be beneficial. Why is your son, and is even being coveted by the demons?" Whether it was the demon from earlier or the person who was beaten down by Shining, it was obvious that their target was this child. Bao Feiping was taken aback. He was surprised that Meng Qi knew about the primordial soul sword chi. But then he remembered that the person who came with Bao Feiping also had an innate sword embodiment. Bao Feiping guessed that Bao Feiping must also know about it. Looking around, he raised his hand and set up an isolation array formation. Sighing, he explained in a deep voice, "This Yuan soul sword chi is indeed beneficial for cultivation, but it is not the case for my son." He did not hide anything and told her everything in detail. Because even though he was born with a sword body, he was also born with a divine fetus. He was born in the celestial realm and was born with immortal bones and immortal fetus. He did not need to cultivate to become an earth immortal. Because of this, the primordial soul sword chi in his body grew extremely quickly. But he was only 8 years old this year. His immortal body was too weak to withstand so much sword chi. What's more, the primordial soul sword chi is extremely overbearing. Only those with an innate sword embodiment can control it. That's why my father set up an array formation to suppress the sword chi in his body. He wanted to release it when he grew up, but who knew? As if recalling something, Bao Feiping shook his head and said, "Neither my father nor I are sword immortals. We don't know much about this kind of sword chi. We did not expect the primordial soul sword chi to become even more violent the more it is suppressed. Unfortunately, his body was too coveted by others. That's why we built this weighty tower. First, it was to suppress the increasing amount of sword chi in his body. Second, it was to hide his identity as an innate sword embodiment. In private, we have been looking for other sword immortals like him to find out more about him. But it has always been difficult for sword cultivators to cultivate. There are even fewer sword immortals who successfully ascend to become sword immortals. What's more, they have to have an innate sword embodiment like him. All these years we have searched the surrounding countries but have not found any immortals like him. It was only 3 years ago that the sword chi in his body finally exploded. My father used up all his cultivation to suppress the sword chi. But we did not expect that this sword chi would attract the attention of others." "That demon?" Lone Moon asked. "That's right." Bao Feiping nodded. "For the past 3 years that demon has not dared to enter the city. However, it has bewitched other cultivators to barge into the residence. It wants to kidnap my son and take over his body. But it has never succeeded. Who would have thought that it would personally barge into the residence today? So that's what happened. It's better to come at the right time than early. I really have to thank the two of you this time." Bao Feiping expressed his gratitude once again. "Once my son is safe, I will personally pay you a visit to thank you. We are all fellow immortal sect cultivators. Demons are at the forefront and we are all in the same boat. My invincible sect has always done things this way." Although he said that, when the demonic chi in the residence exploded, only the two of them rushed in. Everyone was in a hurry to escape. Bao Feiping felt even more touched. "Fellow immortal, your words make me even more curious about your sect. May I know what kind of immortal sect it is?" "That's a long story. Our invincible sect." Lone Moon smiled so widely that his eyes became slits. He pulled Bao Feiping over and began to bluff. Shining, who was watching from the side, yawned in boredom. She glanced at the two people beside her who were already chatting happily. They looked like they regretted not meeting each other earlier. Then she glanced at Chef, who was working in front of them. She wondered how much longer they would need. So sleepy. If she fell asleep now, no one would notice. Unexpectedly, I Ching sat there for an entire night. By the time the sun was high up in the sky, both he and the child had not woken up from their meditation. Lone Moon, on the other hand, had already reached an agreement with Bao Feiping. Lone Moon did not know how Father Nyo managed to bluff him. By the time Shining woke up, there were more than 10 people in Invincible Sect. Moreover, they were highly skilled in alchemy, weapon refinement, talisman crafting, array formations and so on. To put it nicely, it was a friendly exchange between the two places. But the talents were theirs, the techniques were theirs, the materials were theirs, and the sales channels were theirs. The profits from the sales? From Invincible Sect. Lone Moon felt like he had gained a flock of hens laying eggs overnight. Shining had nothing to say but to praise him. Thank you, City Lord Bao. Lone Moon beamed like a flower. You're welcome, fellow immortal Lone Moon. Bao Feiping's smile widened. It was as if he was the one taking advantage of Lone Moon. It's my Bo residence that's bothering your sect. Even Bao Feiping's father, who had woken up halfway through the conversation, the most powerful exalted immortal in Chushuang City, Bao Yi, nodded in agreement. That's right. We're the ones who are bothering you. We've said so much, but we still don't know where your sect is located? Lone Moon waved his hand and retrieved a map. He pointed to a spot at the edge of the map and said, It's here. Bao Feiping paused. Then, feeling even more guilty, he said, How could it be so far away? It's our fault. A place like this is too much for your sect. Why don't we choose another place with dense immortal qi? As long as it's within Chushuang City, we can go anywhere you like. That's right. Even if it's within Chushuang City, Bao Yi added. Shining. Motherf asterisk her. I've decided. I'll have an extra meal today. Chapter 120. Lone Moon's eyes flashed. Just as he was about to continue the conversation, he heard a ding. The pillar of light that had been shining brightly for the entire night suddenly dimmed. Little N. Bao Feiping exclaimed. He rushed forward to support the child who was about to fall to the ground. How are you? Are you all right? The child slowly opened his eyes. A moment later, he called out weakly, Father? Bao Yi rushed forward. Little N, grandfather? Bao Feiping quickly checked his pulse and heaved a sigh of relief. He turned to I Ching and said, Thank you for your help, fellow immortal. We are very grateful. I Ching shook his head. A moment later he replied, There's no need. Taking a deep breath, he stood up and said slowly, The sword qi in his body has been cleared. But I don't know when it will relapse. He has to learn how to control the sword qi as soon as possible. Both of them paused. Their faces were filled with worry. Shining turned to look at Chef and frowned. She subconsciously took a few steps closer to him. Fellow immortal, may I ask when the sword qi will relapse? Bao Yi stepped forward and cupped his fists. I don't know, I Ching replied. Then how do we control the primordial soul sword qi? Over the years and months. This? The father and son were getting more and more anxious. That meant that they could only use it through continuous practice. But Little N was only 8 years old. How could he withstand such powerful sword qi? The father and son exchanged a look. They seemed to have made up their minds. Bao Yi stepped forward and cupped his fists. Fellow immortal I Ching, I know that you are just like immortal Lone Moon. I Bao Yi have never begged anyone in my life. Now I have one thing that I hope, fellow immortal. Chef. Before he could finish, Shining cut him off and stepped between the two of them. Bao Yi paused. He tried to explain, fellow immortal, actually shut up. Shining suddenly turned around and glared at him. In an instant he felt a strong aura pressing down on him from all directions. Bao Yi paused. In less than half a second he felt as if he had just been through life and death. He broke out in a cold sweat. When he looked again, Lone Moon had already turned around. Was he imagining things? Shining reached out to support the person in front of her. What's wrong? I Ching was stunned for a moment. Strangely, she felt a warmth in her heart. Her voice suddenly lowered and she called out weakly, as she could tell. Suddenly, he spat out a mouthful of blood. *CK. Lone Moon regained his composure and jumped in fright. He hurriedly ran over to support her. Hey, don't scare me like that. Didn't you say you were fine? Seeing how he walked into the light pillar without hesitation, she thought he would be able to do it easily. What's going on? He quickly felt the pulse on his hand. Bao Yi, who was beside him, also held onto his other hand. A moment later their expressions changed and they looked at I Ching in surprise. Say something. Shining demanded. There are two streams of sword qi clashing with each other in his body. Lone Moon's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Although he suppressed it himself, it still hurt his meridians. Master. I'm fine. Master's instructions must be completed. Fine my ass. Lone Moon glared at Bao Yi. Your meridians are all broken. How can you call that fine? It's my little Anne's fault. Bao Yi looked guilty. He's been in little Anne's sword chi for too long. The sword chi has invaded his meridians, causing his own sword chi to fight with the external sword chi. What's the solution? Shining asked. Lone Moon exchanged a look with Bao Yi. He can only rely on himself to get rid of the sword chi, or to suppress it completely. But it will take a long time. How long? A few hundred years or 1,000 years. What's more, he would have to endure the pain of the sword chi's backlash every day. *CK. Xin Ying's face darkened. It had been too long. Bao Yi frowned and suddenly turned to Bao Feiping. Feiping, go and get the 9 firmaments mirror. Huh? Bao Feiping's eyes widened. He blurted out, that's the treasure that the former king gave to Chu Shuang City. And it can only be used. Before he could finish speaking, Bao Yi's expression darkened and he glared at him. Bao Feiping paused. Then, with a look of guilt on his face, he said, Feiping is being narrow-minded. I'll go right now. Little Anne had saved Little Anne's life. A mere immortal artifact was nothing to him. Bao Feiping turned and ran toward the front yard. A moment later he returned with a bronze mirror in his hands. He handed it to Bao Yi. This is the 9 firmaments mirror, Bao Yi explained. It's a small space made from half an immortal meridian. Entering it is like bathing in an immortal meridian. The immortal chi inside can temporarily suppress the sword chi in fellow immortal's body. Based on fellow immortals' understanding of the primordial soul sword chi, you should be able to get rid of the excess sword chi within this time frame. What's more, the passage of time in this mirror is different from the passage of time in the immortal realm. It might be 100 times faster than in this realm. Fellow immortal, you don't have to worry about time. Are you willing to give it a try? I Ching looked at the mirror in Bao Yi's hands, then glanced at Shining. Frowning, he suddenly turned to Lone Moon and said, Father Nyo Mustache, got it? Before Bao Yi could finish, Lone Moon rolled his eyes. Isn't it just cooking? Don't worry, I won't kill her. Get lost. That's enough, you brainless fan. I Ching finally relaxed. Yet he felt a little uncomfortable. You're lucky. Shining. Somehow she felt like she was being looked down upon. The Bao father and son. What did he mean? What did they say? Thank you, exalted immortal Bao. I Ching looked at Bao Yi. Bao Yi conjured a seal and began chanting a spell to activate the immortal artifact in his hand. The mirror in his hand emitted a blinding white light. Bao Yi pointed a finger at I Ching's forehead. The next moment, the white light enveloped I Ching's entire body. Fellow immortal I Ching. Bao Feiping hurriedly said, This 9 heavens billion mirror can only be used once. Fellow Taoist, after you get rid of the sword chi, you don't have to rush out. The immortal chi inside the mirror was very beneficial to one's cultivation. Thank you. I Ching nodded. As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body transformed into a white light and entered the mirror. The originally smooth surface of the mirror was suddenly covered by a layer of white mist. It no longer reflected anything. Everyone present heaved a sigh of relief. Bao Yi handed the mirror to Lone Moon and said, Fellow immortal I Ching will need some time to get rid of the sword chi. Why don't the 2 of you stay here for the night? Lone Moon hesitated. It was indeed troublesome to travel back and forth. What's more, this mirror belonged to Bao Yi. It would be better for them to stay here than to return to Invincible Sect. He nodded and said, Thank you, exalted immortal. After some thought, he added, I wonder how long this good friend of mine will have to stay in the mirror? Although the time inside the mirror is different from the time in the immortal realm, this mirror can only be entered once. That's why I'm not sure exactly how much of a difference there is. It's said that one day in the immortal realm is at least 100 years inside the mirror. What's more, there's half an immortal meridian's immortal chi inside the mirror. Ordinary immortals would need more than 1,000 years to absorb half an immortal meridian. I see. That meant it would take more than 10 days. So you don't have to rush. Wait for half a month, master. Before he could finish speaking, the mirror in Lone Moon's hand shattered. A familiar figure appeared in front of them and grabbed Xin Ying's hand. Are you hungry? Do you want breakfast, lunch, dinner or supper? Shining, Lone Moon, the 3 Bao brothers. Chapter 121. Fellow Immortal Lone Moon. Bao Feiping asked worriedly, Is fellow immortal I Ching really all right? The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Don't worry, he knows what he's doing, he should be fine. What the hell should he be? And why did he rush into the kitchen the moment he came out of the 9 heavens mirror? Immortals did not need to eat. Although there was a kitchen in the residence, It was only used occasionally by immortals who were gluttonous. Most of the utensils in the kitchen were incomplete. But it was one thing for I Ching to bring oil, salt, sauce and vinegar with him. But why did he bring pots, bowls, ladles and cooking ingredients? Even bowls, chopsticks and tea were all there. How did he look like he was going out? He was obviously moving. Even if I Ching brought out a set of tables and chairs, Bao Feiping would not be surprised. Then, he really brought out a set of 4 chairs. Winky face, wait, why did even immortal Lone Moon sit down with a natural expression? Chef, I want to eat seafood. Yes master, no problem master. For the entire morning, Bao Feiping watched in bewilderment as I Ching brought out the dishes from the kitchen. Then, the 2 men in front of him devoured them quickly, one faster than the other. They even invited him to join them as they picked at the food. City Lord Bao, join us. Don't stand on ceremony. Lone Moon smiled as he invited them. Then his expression changed. Holy shit, Shining, leave me a piece. You're almost done. Out of politeness, Bao Feiping had no choice but to take a bite. He did not expect it to taste quite good. Just as he was about to take a second piece, his bowl was empty. He was getting more and more confused about these people. Bao Feiping sat there for 2 hours with mixed feelings. Finally, the 2 of them put down their chopsticks. Your son should be fine now, right? Let's go and take a look just in case. Lone Moon wiped his mouth and resumed his elegant demeanor. He no longer looked as pathetic as before. Bao Feiping paused, suddenly realizing something. Could it be that they stayed here to cook because they were worried that something might happen after his father treated Little Lin? Was that why they stayed here for so long? So that's why. His heart warmed and he stood up gratefully. Thank you, fellow immortals. He quickly turned around and led them to the front yard. Sure enough, Bao Yi had already finished healing the child. When he saw them coming in from afar, he quickly walked up to them. Father. The child threw himself into Bao Feiping's arms and peeked his little head out from Bao Feiping's shoulder, looking curiously at the 3 people behind them. Bao Feiping carried his son in his arms. He could finally relax after a whole day of worrying. His heart was filled with mixed emotions. He invited Shining and the others to take a seat, then carried his son and sat beside Bao Yi. Bao Yi looked at I Ching and said, "This is Sword Immortal I Ching who saved your life. Come and thank him for saving your life." The child was stunned for a moment, then sensibly ran down from his father's arms. He took 2 steps forward, cupped his fists and bowed respectfully to I Ching. Little and thanks Immortal for saving my life. Don't mention it. I Ching's expression did not change at all. He replied in the same indifferent tone, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Besides, you saved me. He was just following Master's orders. What should he cook for Master tonight? Even so, fellow immortal, you were injured because of my son. We didn't really help you. Bao Feiping took a step forward, trying his best to ignore the broken mirror. He exchanged a look with Bao Yi and continued, speaking of which, fellow immortal seems to be fated with my son. Not only do you have the same physique as him, but you also appeared just when he was in danger. That's right. Bao Yi nudged his grandson forward. This is indeed a great deal of fate. I Ching frowned and glanced at the 2 of them. If the 2 of you have something to say, just say it. The 2 of them paused. Awkwardness flashed across their faces. A moment later, Bao Yi sighed and stepped forward. To tell you the truth, we do have a favor to ask of you. Bao Yi lowered his head and held the hand of the confused child. Although there are many immortals in the immortal realm, sword immortals are rare. Even in Chushuang City, including the 2 of you, there are less than 5 of them. Little Lin is still young. He needs guidance. But his body can only train in swordsmanship. Unfortunately, there is no one in our big residence who can help him. Fellow immortal I Ching. Bao Feiping stepped forward anxiously. Little Lin's situation. I'm sure you've experienced it in the lower realm. It might be even more dangerous. My father and I can protect him for a while, but we can't protect him forever. The most important thing is for him to learn. So. He paused and glanced at Bao Yi. He cupped his fists and said solemnly, Fellow immortal, could you please accept my son as your disciple and guide him on the path to becoming a sword immortal? The moment he said that, not only I Ching but even Lone Moon, who was at the side, was shocked. Accept a disciple. Bao Feiping stood up and looked at the child on the ground. Then he looked at I Ching and felt amused. City Lord Bao, you must be joking. Although your son is only 8 years old, he was born with an immortal body. He is already an earth immortal. I Ching has just ascended and is only an earth immortal. Their cultivation levels are similar. How can they be master and disciple? If not for their serious expressions, Bao Feiping would have thought that they were deliberately trying to humiliate I Ching. Fellow immortals, please don't misunderstand. Bao Feiping hurriedly explained, I really want my son to be your disciple. Although my son was born with an immortal body, he only knows a few basic Dharma spells. He doesn't know anything about swordsmanship or sword techniques, let alone sword intent. Both of you know that sword immortals cultivate their understanding of swordsmanship. From the looks of it, he has not started yet. Fellow immortal I Ching should naturally address him as master. Lone Moon thought for a moment and asked, although sword immortals are hard to find with Chu Shuang City's power, it should not be difficult to find someone who is willing to teach your son. Why look for Chef I Ching? Wouldn't it be better to find a sword immortal with a higher cultivation level? Because fellow immortal I Ching is the most suitable, Bao Yi suddenly said. Lone Moon paused and then understood. It was possible to find other sword immortals, but there was only one sword immortal with an innate sword body. Even demons coveted his body. How could he guarantee that a sword immortal would not? Being a disciple of I Ching, who also had an innate sword body, was indeed the most suitable and safest choice. City Lord Bao's fatherly heart really moves me. Lone Moon's eyes brightened. He suddenly felt that the cooperation they had discussed earlier could be deepened. If that's the case, it would be hard for us to reject. Isn't that right, Chef? Bao Feiping immediately nudged him and winked at him. His eyes were filled with food expenses, food expenses, food expenses. I Ching frowned and lowered his head to look at the child in front of him, then at Shening. He was about to speak when Lone Moon interrupted him. Don't worry, City Lord. I'll make the decision. It's decided. Thank you, fellow immortal. The two of them were overjoyed. They hurriedly nudged the child in front of them. Little and hurry and greet master. Only then did the child kneel down with a blank look on his face. Disciple greets master. I Ching's frown deepened. He stepped to the side and said, City Lord Bao, this matter, if no one objects, it's decided. Lone Moon interrupted him again. Oh yes, I still don't know your son's full name? Oh, he has always followed his mother's surname Ning. His name is Zian. Mingzi. What? Lone Moon's eyes widened, his expression darkening. Holy shit. Ningzian. For all. I object. I Ching, Shening, Bo San. Chapter 122. My wife used up all her primordial essence to give birth to him. That's why he took his mother's surname. Thinking that Lone Moon was surprised at his son's surname, Bao Feiping explained, Fellow immortal I Ching, you can give him a Taoist name. From now on he will be considered as your sect's. No. Before he could finish, Lone Moon objected again. What? The two from the Bao family paused, confused. He doesn't need a Taoist name, no. I mean he can't be I Ching's disciple. Lone Moon's expression darkened. He said seriously, he can't join the invincible sect either. Absolutely not. What? Bao Feiping was even more confused. Did he agree just now? Because. Lone Moon stared blankly at her. His mouth, which had always been smooth and nimble, suddenly froze. After a while he said, Our sect has filled up the slots. What did he mean? Bao Feiping regained his composure. He turned to the person beside him and said, I mean I Ching is the one taking him in as a disciple. Isn't that right, Chef? Bao Feiping's tone changed and he gave Lone Moon a look that said, If you agree you won't get any food allowance for a year. I Ching, Bao Feiping, didn't he say he could make the decision? Fellow immortal I? The two turned to look at I Ching. I Ching glanced at the child who had the same fate as him. His heart softened. It's not impossible to take him in as a disciple. Lone Moon's heart tightened. He cursed, Chef. Don't spout nonsense. He continued, It's just that I haven't started my apprenticeship yet. I have to ask. He subconsciously turned to look at Shening. Master, not taking him in. Shening threw out two words. I Ching immediately turned and answered firmly, Not taking him in. The two. What happened to helping each other? City Lord, exalted immortal. We have urgent matters to attend to in the sect. Since your son is fine, we will take our leave first. Lone Moon pulled them up with each hand and turned to walk out. Before the two could react, he flew on his sword and disappeared. Bao Feiping, Bao Yi, what was going on? Lone Moon pulled the two of them along as they flew at top speed. His face was dark the whole time, and he only stopped when they reached the foot of Invincible Sect's mountain. I Ching was just about to speak. Don't speak. Lone Moon cut her off. I know you pity that child, but you really can't accept him as a disciple. Anyone can, but you can't. I know you think I'm unsympathetic. Lone Moon paced back and forth anxiously. If he doesn't practice swordsmanship soon, the primordial soul sword chi might explode again. But I'm doing this for your own good and for the sake of Invincible Sect. There are some things that you might not understand. I'll explain it to you slowly. Maybe you'll have to thank me in the future. What are you doing? Before he could finish, I Ching suddenly raised his hand and pushed him away. Scram. Who cares about your explanation? Don't block my conversation with Master. Lone Moon. Damn it. Master. He took off the storage bag beside him and handed it over. He looked at Shining seriously. I'm about to break through. This time it might take a long time. This is the food that I prepared just now. If you're hungry, you can just take it. Okay. Shining took it. Breakthrough? Lone Moon did not have time to complain. He squeezed over. You just ascended. How could it be? Wait, your immortal chi. Shining examined his body carefully and realized that the immortal chi on his body was unimaginably thick. It was just that he was forcefully suppressing it. Could this immortal chi be from the mirror? Didn't you come out after getting rid of the sword chi? What? He had only been in there for less than 10 minutes. How long did you stay in there? The time inside was different from the outside. 100 years. Not even 100 years. It would be difficult to even get rid of the sword chi in such a short time, right? Oh, I was afraid that I would miss Master's meal if I stayed in there for too long. He answered seriously. So I just absorbed all the immortal chi and sword chi in there. He just did not have time to absorb them into his dantian. One piece. Holy shit. Disregarding the fact that the sword chi belonged to someone else, it was already very difficult to get rid of it. He actually managed to subdue it? What's more, that was half an immortal meridian. For an ordinary immortal to absorb such a huge amount of immortal chi, it would be impossible without 400 or 500 years. Not only did he manage to do it in 100 years, he also kept it suppressed and did not break through. This pervert. I Ching's expression changed. The immortal chi on his body was about to explode. It was obvious that he could not suppress it for much longer. He looked at Shining again. Master, when I break through later, there will be a heavenly tribulation. You must remember not to go near it. Seeing that she nodded, he mounted his sword and flew out of Invincible Sect. He landed a few miles away. Indeed, in a short while, there was a huge explosion of immortal chi. The sky changed color. The originally clear sky suddenly darkened. Compared to the lightning tribulation in the lower realm, the tribulation experienced by immortals was obviously very different. At this time, the sky was clearly divided into two halves. One half was still filled with thunder, while the other half was a fiery red. Piercing heavenly fire was burning fiercely. After a while, a dragon's roar sounded. A fire dragon flew down from the sky. In an instant, the area within a radius of 1,000 meters turned into a sea of fire. Even the people of Invincible Sect, who were a few miles away, could feel the scorching heat. It was as if it could burn everything in the world. Suddenly they understood why I Ching flew so far away to break through. After the heavenly fire descended, it was followed by the lightning tribulation. Lone Moon looked up at the area where the heavenly fire and lightning tribulation were intertwined. Drifting Bitao had told him that immortals had to endure 81 lightning tribulations and 36 wildfires. Although he was not satisfied, he was still worried. Not to mention the lightning tribulation, the heavenly fire was not like the deviant fire that he had subdued in the mystic realm. Even with the body of a sword immortal, it would be very difficult to handle. The commotion here had already alarmed many disciples of Invincible Sect. He had no choice but to quickly set up an array and instruct everyone not to go near. Only then did he start to count the number of wildfires in detail. 34, 35, 36. Finally, wait. 37, 38, 39, more and more. Holy shit, didn't they say that there would only be 36 fires in one breakthrough? What the hell? Was there a big holiday buy one get one free? Thinking about what happened in the Azure world, he subconsciously looked at Shining. Shining, did you see anything? Could it be that someone in the immortal world was tampering with the heavenly tribulation? Shining, who was chewing on a pastry, paused. She shook her head and said, No. No, then how could it be? Wait. Breaking through one level would indeed result in 36 wildfires. If it was not because the heavens did not learn math well, then it could only be because I Ching had broken through two big realms. Was he trying to go from earth immortal to mystic immortal? 10,000 alpacas galloped across his heart. He started to count the wildfires more seriously. 70, 71, 72. Then, 73, 74? Winky faced that wildfire burned a total of 108 fires before it stopped. Lone Moon, MMP. This bunch of stupid cheats. F***CK. Chapter 123. Father Nyo. Shining rummaged through I Ching's storage bag and took out a plate of pastries. Can you tell me about the plot now? You want to know now? Lone Moon rolled his eyes at her. He had wanted to tell her a few times before, but she was never interested. Yes, I'm free now. Chef was going through his tribulation anyway. Who's that kid? The big boss villain? No. He frowned as if recalling something. He clenched his fists and said, he's the male lead in the book. Shining sat down on the stone table at the side and continued to take out the various pastries that Chef had prepared. As she ate, she gestured for him to continue. Please start your performance. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He rolled his eyes at her again. He sat down and snatched the plate of pastries from her hand. Then he told her about the plot that he had read before. The novel that he had read back then was a cliché fairy tale of love, and it was a sadistic love between a master and his disciple. Is Chef gay? Shining suddenly asked. Pooh, Lone Moon spat out the pastry that he had just put into his mouth. Gay your ass. What are you thinking about? Can't you restrain your Fujoshi soul? Lone Moon glared at her. The master and disciple in the plot refers to Ning Zian and his disciple. It does not include your disciple, Chef. Disappointment. Lone Moon poured a glass of water before continuing. The novel started from the female lead's point of view. She was originally a mortal who got involved in a battle between demons and immortals. She accidentally came to the upper realm and became an innocent bystander. Ningxian happened to pass by and save her. At that time Ningxi was no longer the weak child he was now. He was already an exalted immortal and was about to become a young emperor. His reputation in the immortal realm was also very high. After he brought the female lead back, Ningxi, and found out that she had a special constitution. She would mysteriously attract some unclean things. For example, yin qi that had been sealed, demonic seeds that had been suppressed, or evil spirits that had already dissipated. Puzzled, the male lead divined for a while, and only then did he find out that she was born with a yin spirit body. She was an existence of extreme yin and extreme cold, so it was extremely easy for her to attract these things. Therefore, since she was born, she often encountered all kinds of bad luck and stumbled to survive until now. Ning Zian couldn't bear to see her like this, so he decided to take her as his disciple. In the novel, Ning Zian was described as a high-definition immortal who was not good with words but focused on cultivation. He was an otherworldly and abstinent immortal. At first, Lone Moon did not understand why the male lead, who had always been focused on improving his cultivation and did not want to be disturbed by external affairs, would so easily accept the female lead as his disciple. But after the incident with the Chu Shuangqiu and combining it with the plot, Ning Zian probably felt that he and the female lead were in the same boat. They were both burdened by their natural constitutions, so he wanted to take her as his disciple. However, the following plot was very cliché. It was nothing more than the female lead having feelings for the male lead, but due to their master and disciple status, she could not confess. Like all master-disciple novels, the main point of the novel was, Master has abused me hundreds and thousands of times, but I will treat Master like my first love. Moreover, every time the female lead was abused by the male lead when she was in trouble, there would always be male pairs. In any case, as long as it was a male creature, with just a glance at the female lead in the crowd, they would be able to instantly discover the beauty of the female lead, and then fall in love with her without hesitation. But the male lead was blind. After a series of misunderstandings and misunderstandings, abuse and abuse, the male lead finally recovered from his blindness. He broke through all the obstacles and finally got together with the female lead in the evil Mary Sue story. Originally, the two of them could do whatever they wanted. It had nothing to do with others. But the worst thing was, the male lead and the female lead had a natural tendency to throw the blame away. Apart from characters in the plot, anyone who got close to them would instantly become the scapegoat. The male lead said, "You are only my disciple, just like the other disciples in the sect." And so, the other disciples were destroyed. The male lead said, I have no feelings for you. Even if I do, it is only familial love. And so, the Bao family fell. The male lead said, I want to protect the sect and have no heart for love. And so, the sect was destroyed. The male lead said, I only want to protect all living beings in the three realms in this life. And so, the gates to the demonic realm opened. In short, the two of them had enough cannon fodder to surround the entire immortal realm. That's roughly what happened in the plot. Lone Moon finished in one breath and poured himself a cup of water from the teapot. Oh. Shining nodded and glanced at the man who was pretending to be calm. Suddenly she asked, what happened between the female lead and the male lead? Pooh. Before he could drink a mouthful of water, he spat it out. His expression changed and he said with some panic, What else could have happened? Isn't it just a matter of who likes who? Are you sure? Why would I lie to you? Then why are you blushing? I'm too hot. Oh. I already said it's not a sensual story. Keep your doubtful wavy lines to yourself. Anyway, you just have to remember that these two people are pathogens. Whoever offends them will be unlucky. In the end, the two of them got together happily. Those cannon fodder who have cultivated for tens of thousands of years are all unlucky, Lone Moon said seriously. Nothing good will come out of getting involved with the male lead. Who knows, the entire invincible sect might be implicated. What about Chef? Shining asked. He had said so much, but she did not see Chef appear. He only appeared at the last moment of the novel. At that time, the gates to the demonic realm were already open and the demons were attacking the immortal realm. In order to save the male lead's disciple, he used all his cultivation to forcibly close the gates to the demonic realm. Lone Moon frowned and said, So the most miserable of all the cannon fodder is that gate so hard to close? Shining looked curious. Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Was that the point? Were you even listening to the plot? What is it made of? Is it very heavy? Why do you care if it's heavy or not? The point was that I Ching must not take the male lead as his disciple. Otherwise, the invincible sect would be no match for the male lead and the female lead. I see that Chef is usually quite strong. What does this have to do with being strong? Then why is it so hard to close the gate? Your plot is very problematic. Is that an ordinary gate? That's the gate to the demonic realm. Do you think anyone can open and close it? Lone Moon glared at her and said, The demonic chi alone can corrode the body of an immortal. It must be very special to be able to block the gate of the demonic race. Is there a lot of demonic chi on the gate? Of course. And it's tall and big. It looks especially heavy? That's a must, right? Is the word, demonic realm, written on it? Maybe. There are 2 rings on the gate and the things holding the rings are red-eyed toads? What red-eyed toads? The more she said, the more ridiculous it became. Lone Moon turned and rolled his eyes at her. Do you think it's a television prop? You make it sound so real. Have you seen it before? I have. Shining nodded. What? Holy shit. Chapter 124. As I Ching had jumped 3 levels in a row, 10 days had already passed since the heavenly tribulation. His cultivation level had also risen from the original Earth Immortal to the Stygian Immortal level. His cultivation was second only to Bao Yi of the Bo family. In addition, he was a sword immortal, so he was stronger than immortals of the same level. In a real battle, it was normal for him to challenge someone of a higher level. He was thinking about his master and wondered if the food he had prepared was enough. After adjusting his condition, he flew back to the sect. As soon as he entered the mountain gate, he happened to meet 2 people who were flying towards him. You're finally better. Come, let's go to Chushuang City. Lone Moon waved at him, pulling Shining with him. Master, this? I Ching hesitated. Didn't they just come back from that place? Let's go first, I'll explain to you on the way, Lone Moon said hurriedly, intending to fly on his sword again. I Ching did not ask any more questions. He summoned his flying sword, thought for a moment, then reached out to pull Shining back onto his own sword. Then he flew up into the air and headed towards Chushuang City. What happened to Chushuang City? He asked as he rode on his sword. Do you remember the demon who barged into the city? Lone Moon asked in a low voice. Do you know how he escaped? I Ching frowned. Thinking back, Ning Xian's primordial soul sword chi had exploded and Bao Yi was distracted. The demon took the opportunity to escape and then, it disappeared into thin air and so did the devil chi. Such a huge amount of devil chi disappeared just like that. After that, City Lord Bao searched everywhere but did not find any traces of the devil clan. How did he do it? No matter how hard he tried to escape, it was impossible for him to escape so cleanly. Because of the gate to the demonic realm, Lone Moon said in a low voice. That gate is in Chushuang City. The demon world? I Ching exclaimed. I've already informed City Lord Bao 10 days ago, but even after searching the entire city, they still couldn't find the door. Lone Moon continued, that's why, just in case, we waited for you to finish your tribulation and go take a look together. How do you know about this? I Ching asked. Although everyone knew about the existence of the demon world, no one had actually been there. How could it appear in the remote Chushuang city of the immortal world? This is a serious matter. Are you sure it's the gate of the demon realm? I'm not sure. Lone Moon pointed at Shining. She saw it. I Ching's expression suddenly changed and he said with a look of determination, that is definitely the gate to the demonic realm. That's right. Lone Moon. Motherf asterisk her. The three of them flew at top speed and passed through several teleportation arrays before arriving at Chushuang City. Coming to this immortal city again, it was obviously different from the last time. The city seemed rather deserted, with only a few immortals entering and exiting the city gates. When they arrived at the City Lord Manor, Bao Feiping was already waiting at the entrance. Fellow immortals, you finally arrived. His face lit up and he cupped his fists politely. His gaze fixed on I Ching and he was shocked. Immortal I Ching, your cultivation. 10 days ago he was still an earth immortal. How did he suddenly become a Stygian immortal? I Ching nodded and returned the greeting. I still have to thank the City Lord for bestowing the treasure that day. Bao Feiping looked at Lone Moon in disbelief. Although the 9 Heavens Billion Mirror contained half an immortal meridian of immortal chi and could indeed allow one's cultivation to improve by leaps and bounds, but wasn't this a little too much? He felt a little conflicted, but he quickly thought of the important matter at hand and regained his composure. He hurriedly invited the three of them in and said in a low voice, that day when we received Brother Lone Moon's message, we conducted an investigation in the city. Although we did not find the gate to the demonic realm, we did find something unusual. Bao Feiping raised his hand and conjured a map of the city in the air. He pointed at it and explained. Ever since that demon had set his sights on an era, they had conducted similar investigations before, but they had never found any problems. It was the same this time. They did not find anything related to the demon race in the city, much less any remnant demonic chi. But the gate to the demonic realm was a serious matter. It concerned not only Chushuang City but the entire immortal realm. After receiving the same results, his father Bao Yi was still worried and went to check it out for himself. With one look he found some small problems. There are a few places in the city where the immortal chi seems to be thinner than other places. Bao Feiping pointed at a few places on the map. Originally there were many immortals in the city. There were often people cultivating and meditating, so it was normal for the immortal chi to be thinner and thicker. But after the demon race's invasion, many immortals left the city. Logically speaking, this city was above the immortal meridian, and there were no immortals absorbing the immortal chi there, so the immortal chi should be thicker. But now, the immortal chi seemed to be avoiding those places on purpose. What's more, we discovered that there are many places like this outside the city. Almost every few hundred feet there would be a place like this. Why is that? Could it have something to do with the gate to the demonic realm that Brother Lone Moon mentioned? Lone Moon frowned. The only thing that could make the immortal chi retreat was something from the demonic realm. Shining. He turned to look at Shining. Where exactly did you see the gate to the demonic realm? That building. Didn't I mention it before? Weighty building? Bao Feiping interrupted. Yes, just before you guys arrived. Shining pondered for a moment, then added, it disappeared in a flash. Before they arrived, in other words, it was when the demon had escaped? He had escaped straight back to the demonic realm. Was that why he disappeared so cleanly? But they had already checked the weighty building many times. In contrast to the other strange places, that was the place where the Bao family's immortal chi was the thickest. City Lord, why don't you bring us there to take a look? Lone Moon suggested. There were some things that they could not see but Shining could. Bao Feiping nodded and led them to the side yard. Lone Moon checked the place where Shining had mentioned the gate to the demonic realm more than 10 times. Just as Bao Feiping said, there was nothing strange. They then went to the city to check all the places where the immortal chi was different. Still they could not find anything. My father has already gone to the capital to report this matter, Bao Feiping said. If it really was the gate to the demonic realm, their small immortal city would not be able to make the decision. Lone Moon nodded. He checked again but there was still nothing. He started to wonder if Shining had been seeing things that day. He nudged the person beside him. "Hey, did you find anything?" "I found something," Shining replied. "Oh, what?" Lone Moon was shocked. Even Bao Feiping turned to look at her in shock. "What did you see?" "The gate." "Holy shit, you really found the gate to the demonic realm? Where is it?" Shining pointed to the ground. "Here." Everyone looked at the ground. There was nothing beneath her feet. There was nothing there? That, and that. Shining pointed in a few more directions. All of them. Lone Moon's mouth twitched. "What do you mean? Was the gate to the demonic realm a mouse hole? Was it everywhere? Where exactly is it? Can you explain?" Shining sighed. She suddenly turned to I Ching. "Chef, bring me up." I Ching did not hesitate. He flew her up on his sword. They flew higher and higher until they were thousands of meters above the ground. Then she pointed down and said to Bao Feiping and Lone Moon, who were flying up with her, "This?" The two of them looked down and instantly understood. Their faces paled. Damn. Chapter 125. They could see the entirety of Chu Shuang City below. Above the immortal meridian, Chu Shuang City was shrouded in immortal qi. Outside the city, however, the immortal qi was thinner. From above, Chu Shuang City looked like it was protruding. What stood out even more was its shape. Originally, immortal cities did not have a fixed shape. If one wanted to stay in the city for a long time, they could build a house in the city with the city lord's permission. That was why the city was very spacious. However, looking down from the sky, the entire Chu Shuang City had become squarish. It was as though it was an immortal city that had been measured. There was not a single inch more than it was. What's more, the biggest street in the city was right in the middle, dividing the city into two perfect halves, the east and the west. He didn't notice it in the past, but now that he had flown so high up, he realized that the entire landscape of Chu Shuang City looked like a door. A huge door. Bao Feiping thought back to the places where the immortal qi was different. He compared them to the nails on the door. "City Lord Bao." Lone Moon suddenly asked, "Is there a way to hide the immortal qi temporarily? Or an immortal artifact that can see through the immortal meridian?" "See through the immortal meridian? You mean?" Bao Feiping's heart sank. A terrifying thought came to him. He nodded hurriedly. "Yes, the sky-shrouding art will do." With that, he conjured a seal with both hands. With a wave of his hand, a human-faced water mirror appeared in front of the four of them. They looked down through the water mirror. All the immortal qi in the city had disappeared. There was a silver immortal meridian flowing in the city. After a while, the immortal meridian faded away, revealing what was inside. It was a thick black. Just as Shining had said, it was a huge black door. There were two red-eyed toad rings on the door. Demonic qi swirled around it. Just by looking at it through the spell, one could feel the cold and sinister aura seeping into their bones. The door to the demonic realm. Bao Feiping's hand trembled. He did not even manage to maintain his spell. The water mirror in front of him broke into pieces. His heart was in a mess. All the things that he could not figure out before suddenly became clear to him. Why did the demon suddenly disappear? Why could he not find any traces of it anywhere? Why could it easily break through the demon-breaking array outside the city and enter the city lord's abode? It turned out that there really was a gate to the demon realm. It wasn't located somewhere in Chu Shuang City, but the entire Chu Shuang City itself was the gate. It was true that there was an immortal meridian in Chu Shuang City, but this immortal meridian was actually the seal of the door to the demonic realm. Bao Feiping broke out in a cold sweat at the thought of this. His face turned even paler. "Brother Lone Moon, this is a serious matter. I have to inform my father as soon as possible." Now that the door had been found, it wasn't enough to just report it to the capital. They had to let Junshang know as well. "Please go ahead, City Lord." Lone Moon nodded. "If there's anything you need, just say the word. My invincible sect will do our best to help." "Thank you." Only then did he fly down to arrange the follow-up work. Lone Moon lowered his head and looked at Chu Shuang City once again. Although the gate to the demonic world did not show any signs of opening, the demonic qi surrounding it was already very shocking. Especially those spots where the immortal qi was thin, it was obvious that the immortal meridian was about to be unable to suppress the demon sect. The demon race that had barged into the city lord's mansion might have been a small fry that had found a loophole, or it might not even have a complete demon race body. Chu Shuang City was no longer suitable for immortals to continue cultivating. If the immortal meridian in the city got weaker and weaker, the gate to the demonic world would appear one day. It looked like Bao Feiping was going to be very busy. However, he was not worried that the gate would open now. After all, according to the plot, opening the gate required a huge price. Moreover, it required the demon race's bloodline. After that, Bao Feiping was really busy. First, he closed the immortal city, only allowing people to leave and not enter. He also informed Bao Yi, who had gone to report the situation. Now that the gate had been found, what to do next was not something they could interfere with. Lone Moon did not stay for long. He found the gate and returned to Invincible Sect. 3 months later. Lone Moon's mouth twitched as he looked at the 3 people who had suddenly appeared at the table in front of him. He almost dropped the basket in his hand. He had only gone out to pick up some spring onions. What the hell happened? Where did these people come from? Brother Lone Moon. Bao Feiping was overjoyed. He smiled brightly and welcomed them. Long time no see. How are you? City Lord Bao. Lone Moon glanced at them. You guys, it's all because of the gate to the demonic realm. Bao Feiping sighed and explained, after I reported the matter, Emperor Guyu personally came to Chushuang City to check it out. He confirmed that it was indeed the gate to the demonic realm. As a precaution, the whole of Chushuang City has been sealed. Sealed? What about the gate? I'm not sure about that. Emperor is the person with the highest cultivation level in this country. He's also an immortal emperor. There must be a way to solve this, right? Bao Feiping guessed. Lone Moon frowned. He was not so optimistic. The plot of the book did not mention anything about a way to solve this. After Chushuang City was sealed, Emperor promised to give our family another immortal city. However, it will take some time for the decree to be issued. We can't stay in Chushuang City. We thought of Brother Lone Moon's invitation last time, so we came here. He had mentioned it casually last time. You're really not polite. You even brought your whole family here. We'll probably be staying here for a while. Will we be disturbing you? No, disturbing. What was the point of saying that? You're all here. He silently glared at a certain someone who only cared about eating. Then he strode into the kitchen and greeted Bao Yi, who was on the other side of the room. He brought a bag of scallions into the kitchen. I just realized that Invincible Sect is a good place, Bao Feiping said with a smile. Your disciples all have their own strengths. Compared to Chushuang City, this place is much livelier. City Lord Bao, you flatter me? Lone Moon's smile deepened. He put on a business-like expression. The two of them began to flatter each other. From time to time, Bao Yi, who was carrying his grandson, would join in. Xining was not interested in all this. She focused on eating her food. After taking 2 bites, she felt someone staring at her intently. She turned around and saw Ningzi and looking at her with a pair of black grape-like eyes. His eyes were full of curiosity. When he saw her looking at him, he paused for a moment. Then he gave her a smile as bright as the sun. He turned to look at a piece of pastry on the table. He looked eager to try it. Do you want to eat it? She asked. Ningxian looked at the pastry, then back at her. He frowned and seemed to be hesitating. After a while, he could not resist the temptation and slowly nodded. Oh. Xining picked up the pastry from the plate and moved closer to his little face. This is a walnut pastry. Ning Ziyan's eyes lit up. Just as he reached out to take the pastry, Xinying's chopsticks spun. The pastry spun in front of his eyes and with a ah, she stuffed it into her mouth. It made a series of crisp, crunching sounds. Ning Ziyan, he was completely stunned. His little eyes were red and full of grievance. Xining smiled at him mischievously. Then she picked up her chopsticks and took a few bites. She finished all the food on the plate in front of him. Not even a peanut was spared. When she was done, she even burped. Ning Ziyan. He really wanted to cry. He pursed his lips and snorted. Then he buried his head in Bao Yi's arms and refused to look at her again. Bullying children is really addictive. Chapter 126. Shen Ying and Little Ning's actions did not attract the attention of the trio. Perhaps they felt that they had enough of lying, bragging, talking. Lone Moon finally got down to business after receiving a fee that was more than 10 times higher than what he had expected. Exalted Immortal, City Lord Bao, since the Immortal Lord has taken care of the gate to the demonic realm, what do you plan to do next? He did not believe that the City Lord of Chushuang City would not come all the way here to stay other than his own residence in the Immortal City. To be honest, because of the male lead, Ningzi, he did not want to have anything to do with the Bao family. The gate to the demonic realm was an accident. After all, it concerned the entire immortal realm. This time, the Lord bestowed Jingxing City to the Bao family because of our contribution in discovering the gate to the demonic realm. Bao Feiping glanced at Yi Qing, who had finished cleaning up and was walking out of the kitchen. He continued, although Jingxing City is not on an immortal meridian like Chushuang City, it is inland and close to the capital city. My father and I feel that the matter of the gate to the demonic realm was all thanks to the three of you, not our contribution. If you don't mind, we would like to invite your sect to Jingxing City and share the immortal city with us. Lone Moon was shocked. He did not expect the Bao family to be so generous. They were the ones who discovered the gate to the demonic realm, but Chushuang City was originally the Bao family's territory. Now that it was sealed, it was normal for the immortal emperor to give them a piece of land. Even if he did not mention their role in the matter, no one could say anything. He did not expect that the first thing they did after obtaining the new immortal city was to give them half of it. He was about to ask for more details when he saw Yi Qing standing behind Shining. He immediately understood their intentions. It looked like they had not given up. Yi Qing had been an earth immortal in the past, but now he was a Stygian immortal. It was extremely difficult to find another Stygian immortal sword immortal in the entire immortal realm, much less one with an innate sword embodiment. If they really moved to Jingxing City, they would be in the same city and would see each other all the time. As a sword immortal, it would be natural for Yi Qing to give some pointers to the younger generation occasionally. There would be no need for him to accept disciples or not. Or should he say that these two were really worried about their child's school? In order to find a good teacher, they even provided free housing in the school district. Thank you for your kindness. Lone Moon refused directly. Although there aren't many disciples in my sect, I'm used to living here. I have no intention of changing the abode. What a joke. No matter how many benefits there are, it can't compare to having a main character with a constitution that invites trouble. Brother Lone Moon, don't be in a rush to make a decision. You can think about it slowly. Seeing that things were about to go south, Bao Feiping panicked and turned his gaze to the other two people present. Why don't we ask fellow immortal Yi Qing and this fairy's opinion first? He remembered that this woman was the sect master. Although he could already tell that Lone Moon was the real decision-maker in the sect, for the sake of his son, he had no choice but to drag the other two in. The immortal qi in Jingxing City is much denser than here. It's more beneficial for the cultivation of the disciples in the sect. Not going. Bao Feiping paused. He had thought that the other party would hesitate for a moment. What the hell was this instant rejection? I'm not moving. Shining tilted her head. Moving was so troublesome. Master is right. Yi Qing rejected instantly. Bao Feiping, City Lord Bao, we appreciate your kindness. However, the disciples in my sect are all low-level earth immortals. The immortal qi here is more than enough for them, Lone Moon said. The main reason was that he did not want to have anything to do with the male lead. Alright. Bao Feiping knew that there was no point in trying to persuade them otherwise. He could only give up on the idea of asking them to move. Suddenly he thought of something and changed the topic. Your sect has 2 sword immortals. It looks like your disciples must be extraordinary as well. It's rare for us to have the opportunity to come here. Can you let Father and I broaden our horizons? Now that they had seen each other, they might have to exchange some pointers. Then they could ask Little and to stay in the name of learning from them. City Lord, you've misunderstood. They're not. Lone Moon paused mid-sentence. His eyes darted around as he suddenly thought of a good way to dissuade Bao Feiping. Changing his tone, he said, they're not all sword cultivators, but they're not bad. Yes, very good. Oh then. Bao Feiping's eyes lit up. Lone Moon nodded and turned to the person beside him. Yu Hong, call see you over. Yes. Only then did Yu Hong turn around and walk out. Not long after, she came back with a delicate and gentle fairy in green. The fairy bowed at the two of them timidly. She seemed to be a little afraid of strangers and hid behind them subconsciously. This is our sect's most outstanding disciple. Lone Moon coughed and gestured for Siyu to stand on the other side of the mountain wall. Then, with a straight face, he said, Siyu, exalted immortal Bao and the City Lord want to see your skills. Show them your skills. Everyone's gazes fell on her, especially the Bao father and son. They were even more curious. Was such a delicate fairy also a sword cultivator? And she was the most outstanding disciple. Invincible sect was indeed full of hidden talents. Siyu had always been afraid of strangers. At this moment she was at a loss of what to do. Subconsciously she took a step back. Elder Lone Moon, is it here? Yes, do your best, Bao Feiping replied. But, That's not good, is it? She glanced at the two of them. It's all right. Just do your best. After some thought, he added, if you break anything, it's on me. Siyu was still a little hesitant. The Bao father and son became even more curious. They stepped forward and said, Fairy, don't be afraid. We just want to see what your sect is capable of. That's right. Just practice like you usually do. Don't be so reserved. Siyu was still a little nervous. Shining also interrupted, Little green sister, all the best. As soon as she finished speaking, the timid Siyu suddenly raised her head. Suddenly she seemed to be filled with boundless courage. Nodding her head vigorously, she said, Yes. Sect Master. Once she finished speaking, her eyes narrowed. Immortal chi erupted from her body. Her entire aura changed. No, she really changed. Her muscles bulged and she grew taller. Her entire body swelled to twice its original size. With a loud ha, she punched out. The originally solid mountain wall rumbled and scattered the crushed stones on the ground. Dust rose up to a height of 10 feet, and in an instant, it was all over their faces. Bao Faping, Bao E, how the F***CK, was this a sword immortal? That's enough, Siyu. Go back to the martial arts arena and teach your junior sisters. Lone Moon waved his hand at a certain transformed person. He calmly conjured a wind seal and began to clean up the area. Yes, Elder. Siyu cupped her fists and bowed. Then her body transformed again. In an instant she became that delicate girl again. It was as if her muscles had never been there. Brother. Lone Moon. Bao Faping still looked confused. Just now she was a body cultivator? A woman? Alive. And an immortal at that? There had never been a body cultivator in the immortal realm who succeeded in ascending to immortality. Only demon immortals relied on body cultivation to ascend to the immortal realm. What was a body cultivator called? Body immortal? That's right. Lone Moon nodded and chuckled. Didn't I tell you? I Ching and I have no experience in taking in disciples. They became like this as they continued to cultivate. That's why in the entire Invincible sect, apart from I Ching and I, all the disciples are body cultivators. The two Bao family members, was it too late to take back what they had said? Chapter 127. Ever since Lone Moon had shown his sect's strength to the Bao father and son, he had become more and more serious about teaching his disciples how to cultivate. Every day he personally led over 100 disciples to train in the martial arts arena, shouting all kinds of slogans as they trained. His voice was so loud that it could be heard throughout the entire sect, especially in a certain side hall. Every time the Bao father and son saw this scene, their faces would turn greener. When they found out that the entire Invincible sect was made up of female body cultivators, their expressions became even more interesting. Their eyes were filled with despair. It had to be said that Father Nyo was really going all out in order to dispel their thoughts. The only thing that was hard to explain was why they had so many body cultivators. But it was obvious that the Bao father and son, who had been greatly traumatized, did not think of this. However, it was indeed time for the strength of his disciples to increase. At the very least, they had to grow their immortal bones first. It had been almost half a year since their entire sect had ascended. However, apart from Yu Hong and Siyu, whose cultivation levels had increased tremendously and who were showing signs of forming their immortal bones, Shin Ying and Siyu's cultivation levels had improved tremendously. Though the cultivation levels of the other disciples increased, their foundations were too shallow and there was no sign of them forming their immortal bones. Only those with immortal bones could be considered as true earth immortals. It seemed like he had to think of another way. Of course, the most important thing now was to settle the matter of the male lead. No matter what, they could not get involved with the male lead, especially Yi Qing. Fortunately, the child was still young. These few days, if he wasn't with the Bao father and son, he would be taken care of by Yu Hong. He didn't have much contact with Yi Qing. Master. Yi Qing put down the dish he had just finished cooking. It was rare that he did not continue to dive into the kitchen. Instead, he sat down and looked at Shining. These days, have you noticed? No. Shining shook her head. Wait a little longer. Actually, I'm just guessing. Yi Qing frowned and said, after all, the child has been fine for 8 years. I'm probably just being paranoid, right? Not necessarily. Shining took 2 mouthfuls of rice and casually replied, I don't know many people. Yi Qing was shocked. Master means, there's no rush. Yes. Wait. Lone Moon interrupted, looking confused. What are you talking about? Why can't I understand anything? Were they talking about Ning Ziyin? It was definitely true. I'm talking about your identity as the male lead. Shining replied. What identity? Lone Moon paused. Wasn't he Bao Feiping's son? What was there to call him the male lead? Didn't I tell you? Shining scratched her head and said, that day when Chef helped him expel the primordial soul sword chi, he found something else in his body. When did you tell me that? How the F*ck would I know? Suddenly he had a sullen feeling of being excluded from the world. What's going on? Chef, go ahead. Shining continued to eat. Yes, master. I Ching nodded, then looked at Lone Moon and said, that day when I helped him expel the primordial soul sword chi from his body, I found that although his sword chi was chaotic, it was not completely out of control. I thought he was too young to know how to suppress it. But when I used my immortal chi to help him remove the sword chi, it went into his dantian very smoothly and didn't encounter any obstruction. This is very abnormal. Lone Moon paused, then understood. You mean, if he didn't know how to suppress the sword chi when your immortal chi entered his dantian, even if he didn't know how to do it, he would have resisted instinctively. If he knew, he wouldn't have allowed the sword chi to explode? That's right. I Ching continued, not only that, when I was expelling the sword chi, although I didn't feel that he was conscious, he seemed to be cooperating. At the beginning, I didn't encounter any obstruction. But when my immortal chi accidentally swept past his divine perception, I suddenly felt a full force resistance. All the sword chi went berserk, that's why I was invaded by his sword chi and was injured. Lone Moon's heart tightened. Could there be something wrong with his primordial spirit? I don't know. He shook his head. At that time I was focused on suppressing the sword chi and didn't look closely. I only felt a piercing chill. After that, I tried to use my divine perception to check, but I couldn't find any trace of it. That's why I asked Master to help me see if there was anything different about him. What's more, the immortal realm was different from the mortal realm. If someone had touched his primordial spirit, the Bao father and son would have been able to tell. Shit. Lone Moon couldn't help but curse. The male lead was indeed not simple. Why didn't you tell me something so important earlier? You didn't ask. Then why did you tell Shining? If I didn't ask, I wouldn't have told you, right? She's master. Of course. Mother****. So he was the only one who was picked up by Invincible sect? Anyway, that child's primordial soul sword chi exploded, probably not just because of the demon's invasion, I Ching said in a low voice. There must be some other reason. I just don't know if the Bao father and son know about it. The more Lone Moon listened, the more confused he became. None of this was mentioned in the plot. Ningzi, and the main character, was high and mighty the moment he appeared. There was no mention of him having any special status. Later on, he even became a celestial emperor. Could he have missed out on something? I don't care. They won't be able to stay here for long. Lone Moon waved his hand in annoyance. Anyway, remember to cherish life and stay away from the main character. Stay away from them in the future. Don't have anything to do with this Ningzi. Before he could finish speaking, Xin Ying's expression suddenly changed. She put down her bowl and stood up. What are you doing? Lone Moon was shocked. This was the first time he had seen her so nervous. What happened? It's too late. What? Before he could react, a huge explosion came from behind him, and a black object soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, demonic chi filled the sky, covering the entire Invincible sect. Demonic chi. Why did so much demonic chi suddenly appear in Invincible sect? It's the Chongqing Palace in the west. Lone Moon recognized the direction immediately. He looked even more surprised. That's where the 3 people from the Bao family live. Why would it appear there? Chef, let's go. Shining turned and ran in that direction anxiously. Wait. Lone Moon reacted quickly and grabbed her. You're crazy. There's so much demonic chi and you dare to rush in to save them? What's more, the disciples of the sect were all at the martial arts arena, not inside. Who said I was going to save them? Then you dash. There are a few pieces of dried fish hanging there. They were the seafood he brought back last time, the big ones. Chef, save them. Yes, master, no problem, master. Lone Moon. Son of AB***TC. Chapter 128. The demonic chi was getting thicker and thicker. Compared to the time in the City Lord Manor, the demonic chi was much thicker now. The sky changed color. From time to time, ghostly wails could be heard coming from within the demonic chi. Many black shadows dashed out, their eyes scarlet red and their faces ferocious. Lone Moon immediately activated the protective mountain array and gathered the disciples. They all retreated to the square in front of the palace, trying their best to protect the disciples within the array. For the 108th time, Lone Moon cursed the main character for bringing trouble to himself. He had only been an invincible sect for a few days, but he was really unlucky. Less than 5 minutes after the disciples gathered, I Ching and Shining returned. I Ching was carrying a person in one hand, while Shining was carrying a fish in the other. Lone Moon's mouth twitched. This guy really went to collect dried fish. The few of them walked into the array. I Ching put down the person in his hand. It was the Bao father and son duo. They looked as if they had suffered a huge blow, their faces full of disbelief. Especially Bao Yi, who seemed to be seriously injured. "What happened to the two of you?" Lone Moon asked as he helped them up. I Ching frowned and looked at the two of them. "We guessed wrongly before. The gate to the demonic realm in Chushuang City was just a cover. The real gate to the demonic realm had been moved a long time ago. It's not in one place but in Ning Zian's body. He himself is the gate." "What?" Lone Moon exclaimed. "Holy shit, wasn't the male lead from a righteous sect? Since when did he become the villain? This was getting out of line. You're saying that the demonic chi was released by him? He's a demon too?" "No. Little Lin is definitely not a demon." Before I Ching could answer, Bao Feiping snapped out of his daze. "He was indeed an immortal fetus when he was born, but we don't know when a demonic seed was planted in him." Bao Feiping's face was full of self-blame. The key was that they had not noticed it for so many years. "It's our fault." Bao Yi also sighed. Little Lin was already planted with a demonic seed. The demon who barged in earlier must have seen through this. That's why he transferred the gate to Little Lin. He wanted to lure him into becoming a demon before opening the gate. "Wait." Lone Moon was confused. "You mean to say that the gate to the demonic realm can be transferred?" "That's right." Bao Yi nodded. He sounded both worried and guilty as he said, "We didn't know about this. That's why we brought him away from Chushuang City. Without the immortal meridian suppression, an heir's demonic chi invaded his body and caused him to explode. It's all our fault for implicating your sect." Lone Moon really wanted to curse now. "Alright, there's no point in saying all this now. Why don't the two of you think of a way to solve this situation?" The entire invincible sect had turned pitch black. Other than where they were standing, there was demonic chi everywhere. The two of them looked at each other and shook their heads. "The demonic chi has cut off our connection with the surrounding immortal chi. I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to break through. Besides," he didn't continue, "with so much devil chi, if one or two more demons came out of the devil world, they would definitely die. Their only hope was immortal Emperor Guyu, who was still in Chushuang City. However, there was no way for them to send a message." "Did you see the demon realm gate?" he asked. "I saw it. It's quite big." Before the two of them could reply, Shining pointed in front of them. Lone Moon looked up. Indeed, in the black fog in front of them, a huge black gate was rising. It was getting bigger and bigger. It was exactly the same as the gate they had seen in Chushuang City a few months ago. "Little Lin." Bao Feiping suddenly called out anxiously. Lone Moon then noticed that there was a child standing in the lower left corner of the gate. It was Ning Zian. However, unlike his usual obedient self, his face was covered with demonic scars and his eyes were bloodshot. He pressed one hand against the gate and looked down coldly. This was the male lead? This was clearly the appearance of the villain, the big boss. "What's wrong with him?" Lone Moon asked. "He's been invaded by the demonic seed in his body. He's become a demon," I Ching replied. Indeed, in the next moment, the demonic chi around Ning Zian's body became even more intense. Following a few shrill cries, the demonic chi started to attack the ground. I Ching rushed out with his sword. The sword chi in the sky immediately dispersed the demonic chi. Ning Zian laughed coldly as if he didn't care about the people below him. He only glanced at them before turning his attention back to the huge door. Suddenly, he made a cut on his left palm and pressed it against the red-eyed toad on the door. You're right. "Oh no, he's going to open the gate to the demonic realm. Stop him." Lone Moon was shocked. He instinctively turned to look at Shining and said, "Shining, knock that little brat down." Shining grunted in response. She looked left and right but couldn't find any weapons, so she could only pick up the huge dried fish in her hand and throw it into the air. Everyone felt a strong gust of wind sweep past them. Following that, there was a loud bang. Ning Zian, who had just been about to open the gate, was slammed into the gate. Even the demonic chi around him dissipated. However, the heavy pressure did not disappear. Instead, it carried with it an unstoppable force as it continued to push forward. There was a creaking sound, and the originally unmoving door rumbled. Ningxian fell down along with it. The door, it opened. Shining, I Ching, Lone Moon, Father? Nyo, would you believe me if I told you that it was because the quality of the gate was too poor? How could the gate be opened with a single slap of dried fish? Like hell I'd believe that. He was doomed. He had tried so hard to stop the gate from opening, but it had been slapped open by a single slap of a salted fish. How was he going to play then? For all. The next moment, the surrounding black chi became even thicker. A huge black figure flew out from within. It was different from the other figures that had appeared before. This black figure had a solid body. Its entire body was pitch black, and its face was covered with black scars. Its original appearance could not be seen clearly. Waves of bone-chilling aura rushed toward them. Immediately, the entire defensive array trembled. It seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. The demons were here. Ha 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 ha. The black figure looked around and suddenly let out a maniacal laugh. I didn't think that the gate to the demonic realm would open one day. Ayen. Ah. Before he could finish his words, he was suddenly kicked down from the sky by someone. His body was like a punctured balloon. With a bang, he turned into wisps of green smoke and disappeared, leaving behind only a set of black bones that no longer made a sound. Shining retracted her foot and pointed at the half-collapsed gate to the demonic realm. Then she turned around and said, "Well, I'll go and clean up the mess. I'll find that raging little brat and bring him back. Chef, look after everyone." "Yes, master." I Ching immediately replied. Shen Ying's figure flashed, and she turned and disappeared into the gate. Everyone, after a long time. Speaking of which, the demon that came out from the demonic realm just now wanted to say that he was a fire demon, right? The fire demon that was said to be able to control the true fire of 10,000 yang and burn everything in the world. Even the immortal emperor might not be his match. The moment he appeared, he was trampled to death. No, they must have heard wrongly. Chapter 129. The Demon Realm. Strange rocks stood erect everywhere, lava covered the ground, and even the horizon was a dusky expanse. At this time, the Demon Realm was facing its first and only genocide crisis in history. An azure figure tore through the demonic world sky, which was dark all year round. Wherever it passed, it was unstoppable, and tens of thousands of demons prostrated themselves. Before the demons could see what it looked like, it had already turned to dust. That figure, from the gate of the demon realm, swept across the entire demon continent. From east to west, then south, then north, then south, then north, north and south. She seemed to be lost. Straight face, after going back and forth between the north and south for a dozen times, that person pulled out the little dream demon who had just become a demon from a few hundred meters underground and asked for the information he needed. Finally, he headed towards the Demon King Palace in the middle of the continent. And so, 10 minutes later, the Demon King Palace, where the demonic chi was the thickest and thousands of demons gathered, was clear and bright. The city was filled with demonic bones. At this time, all the demons who sacrificed themselves had only one question in their minds. Demons along the way, why did you hit me? We were just passing by? Demons guarding the gate. Why did you hit me? I was just guarding the gate. Demon army, why did you hit me? I was just standing guard. Demon general, why did you hit me? I was just here to work. No one knew the reason. As for them, the high and mighty demon kings who were invincible, they were already lying on the ground, crying with snot and tears all over their faces. Great immortal, don't hit me. If you hit me again, I'll break up. I was wrong, I really won't dare to do it again, please spare me. Speak, where did that child go? Shining stepped on the demon king's chest and asked in a low voice. What child? The demon king was dumbfounded. He had yet to recover from the vicious beating he had just received. He had never been beaten up like this before. It was simply a crushing defeat. As the master of a realm, for the dignity of the demon realm, he wanted to resist, but the key point was that he could not resist at all. He was not even afraid of losing face and wanted to ask the demons under him for help. With a single thought, he informed the 10 sky fiends. The 10 sky fiends did come, and they came very quickly, and then, very quickly, they were all destroyed. And with one slap, it was even easier than swatting mosquitoes. They were all lying on the ground, not knowing if they were dead or alive. Too scary. There was actually someone more terrifying than the devil race in this world, and the key point was that he still didn't know what the other party wanted to do. It's the child who just entered the devil world 15 minutes ago. I don't know. Immortal. He was sleeping soundly in the devil palace when she suddenly barged in. Without saying a word, she picked him up and gave him a good beating. How would he know what a child was? Great. Great immortal, you can take whatever you want, but I really didn't see any children? You really didn't see anything? Shining continued to ask. I really didn't, great immortal. The Demon King was about to cry. So you're here to look for someone, why didn't you say so earlier? He didn't say that he wouldn't tell her. Then where did he go? He had clearly come in. How would he know? Why don't I gather the demons and help you search? Sure. Shining hesitated for a moment before removing her foot from his foot. She thought about her motive and asked, then do you still dare to do it in the future? I don't dare, I don't dare. The Demon King shook his head repeatedly as he promised, but he didn't dare to get up. He just knelt down and took a deep breath before asking tentatively, then, great immortal, can you tell me what exactly I did wrong? Intending to pass through the gates of the devil world and run to the immortal world. Do you still need me to remind you? The Demon King was shocked. The gates of the devil world are open? Yes. Shining nodded. Don't you know? I don't know. Shining, the Demon King, it seemed like she hit the wrong demon? The scene was very awkward. Cough that. Shining coughed. Let's talk about that child. She was changing the topic, right? Definitely, right? Oh, he's about this tall, about 8 years old, wearing blue and white clothes. Shining gestured at her waist. I asked Ahe nearby. They said that you're the eldest here and you're the one in charge. That's why I came to look for you. What the hell was Ahe? Was it another demon that she met? It was obvious that he had been intimidated by her. That's why he purposely gave her up to kill her. If he found out which demon had lured this jinx to the Demon King Palace, he would definitely not let him off. Then, great immortal, can I ask how that child came to the devil world? And where did he disappear from? Oh, I used a salted fish to slap him in. What the hell? What about the fish? Of course the fish is still. Shining stopped mid-sentence. That little brat couldn't have been slapped unconscious and still under the fish, could he? Speaking of which, when she entered the palace, that salted fish did indeed have a bulge under it. Her expression turned awkward. In a flash, she disappeared from the palace. Before the Demon King could heave a sigh of relief, she suddenly ran back. Great immortal? Why did she come back? I can't find my way back. Bring me there. Could he say no? After Ningzi and woke up, he realized that the demonic chi that was everywhere was drilling into his body like steel needles. A look of ecstasy that did not belong to his age flashed across his face. The devil world? This is the devil world. He subconsciously turned to look. His eyes widened and he laughed even more wildly. Ah, that's great, it's really open. When the demons invade, then. He stopped mid-sentence. His expression suddenly contorted, and his eyes flashed with struggle. A moment later, the demonic marks on his face disappeared, and a completely different expression appeared on his face. His eyes were filled with worry. He looked at the open door and seemed to have made up his mind about something. Suddenly, he conjured a seal with both hands. Chingu, what are you trying to do? Stop. His expression became ferocious again. It was as if there was another person in his body fighting with him for something. The door to the devil world has been destroyed. You can't close it anymore. This happened because of me. His voice lowered again. Naturally, I should be the one to end it. You're crazy. Another voice shouted in panic. I'm you. You won't get anything good from killing me. Don't you want to become stronger? If you become a demon, we will become stronger and surpass the other celestial emperors. You will be the strongest person in the 3 realms. It's my fault. I should have gotten rid of you long ago, the other voice said again. His hands moved even faster. There was a faint light, but then it suddenly dimmed. Do you think that this is still the immortal world and I can only be at your mercy? There's plenty of demonic chi here. I'm not even sure if you're a match for me. I'd rather die than become a demon. Then you can try to expel me? That? Shining could not help but pat the child who had been mumbling to himself for a long time. You're having fun on your own. He was so young but he was already playing 2 roles? Who's there? Ningxian jumped in fright and exclaimed. He could no longer tell who the voice belonged to. He took 2 steps back and looked up at her. His eyes flashed as he recognized her. It's you? You're Shin. Was her name that hard to remember? Straight face. Chapter 130. Sect Master Shin. The child's voice was low and gentle again. He said anxiously, I am Chingu. Help me get rid of the demonic seed in my body. He has become one with my mental demons. I can't do it myself. Chingu? Shining paused. Oh, Celestial Emperor Chingu. He was the master of this continent after all. Why was he so unknown? Ha ha ha. He was about to explain when his voice changed again. He laughed maniacally. Do you think this Earth Immortal can do anything to me? Don't forget this is the demon realm. She can't even protect herself. An Earth Immortal can't even deal with an ordinary demon, much less a demon king. Demon king? You mean him? Shining stepped to the side and pulled the demon king, who was following behind her like a little quail, out. The two voices, Little Black, go and see what's wrong with him. He was still a good kid yesterday. Why did he suddenly become schizophrenic? Yes, Great Immortal. No problem, Great Immortal. The demon king rolled up his sleeves and moved over. His eyes uncontrollably turned to look at the realm gate. For billions of years, the gate to the demon realm, which had always been tightly shut, was open for the first time. The immortal realm was on the other side. All these years, the demon realm had always wanted to enter but could never do so because of this gate. Occasionally, there were lucky ones who could only use a sliver or two of their divine perception to slip through the gap in the gate or use special methods to invade. But now, it was finally open. The demon king was excited. He turned to look at the woman beside him. Suddenly, it was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his heart. He might as well not open it at all. Ningzi and felt a huge wave of demonic chi rushing towards him. Everyone in his body fell silent. He could feel that the demon in front of him was purposely suppressing his demonic chi, but the suppressive force was still frightening. Although his face was swollen, he was very strong. Especially strong. Even Celestial Emperor Chingu at his peak would not be a match for him. This person was really the Demon King. The Demon King glanced at the child on the ground and understood his situation. To prevent the Great Immortal from thinking that he was being perfunctory, he reached out and placed his divine perception on the child's forehead. He was stunned. It was actually the reincarnation seal. Great Immortal. The Demon King chuckled and reported in full detail, this little friend, his soul body carries a demon seed. At this moment, it has already hatched and grown, fusing with his heart demon. Right now, it's fighting against the benevolence of his main body. Isn't that obvious? Everyone could see that he was schizophrenic. I'm asking where the demonic seed came from. The Demon King trembled in fear, and his voice immediately lowered. I'm not too sure about this. There are many reasons for the birth of a demon seed. Moreover, the demonic seed in this person's soul was born here. There's no way to verify it. You mean he was born like this? Never heard of people born with schizophrenia? No. The Demon King shook his head. It's not innate, it's a past life. What do you mean? Great Immortal. The Demon King pointed at him excitedly and said, his divine consciousness carries the reincarnation seal, which means that he did not reincarnate through the three realms. He was an immortal in his past life. The demonic seed was planted in his soul in his past life, but it only hatched recently. What a mess. It was enough to make a television drama about his past life. Little friend, I'm going to bring you back now. But you'd better settle this first, otherwise I won't be able to answer to Father Nyo. She glanced at him. Tell me what's going on. Who's that, Whaten? Sect Master Shen, I am. The child's tone changed midway through his sentence. A glint flashed across his eyes. I'm the real Ningxian. Chingu is trying to take over my body. Hurry up and chase him out of my body. Impudent. The Demon King shouted. He released his demonic chi. How can you speak to a great immortal like that? You're the impudent one. Shining raised her hand and smacked the back of the Demon King's head. You think you're good at scaring children? The Demon King curled up into a ball like a quail after his flattery had failed. Great Immortal is so fierce, so unpredictable, so unreasonable. Little friend, please continue. This Chingu is trying to take over my body, so, shut up, I'm not talking about you. Without waiting for Ningxian to continue, she pointed at the demonic mark on his face and interrupted him again. You're too ugly. Change to the good-looking little friend in your body. The demonic seed, The Demon King did not wait for Shining to speak. He immediately released some demonic qi to suppress the demonic seed in Ning Ziyan's body. Indeed, after a while, the demonic mark on his face faded and he turned back into the delicate-looking little friend. He finally looked a little like the obedient child he used to be. However, there was a hint of maturity in his eyes that did not match his age. Great. Immortal Shen. He glanced at the Demon King beside him and immediately changed the way he addressed her. He was smart enough not to ask too many questions. Instead, he began to talk about his past in detail. My name is Chen Go. 10,000 years ago, I was ambushed and injured by someone. That was when I was implanted with a demonic seed. At that time, I was severely injured and could only seal it temporarily. Unexpectedly, the demonic seed grew stronger and stronger until it merged with my mental demon. After I recovered, I realized that it was too late. If I tried to force it out, it would damage my cultivation. I might even fall into a large mirror world. He frowned as if thinking of something. He continued, later I found a way to create an immortal fetus and reincarnate into it. Although I would have to seal all my cultivation and memories temporarily, I could use the power of reincarnation to slowly cleanse the demonic seed in my body. It will only take a few thousand years at most for my cultivation to be completely restored without any worries. So, you reincarnated into Chu Shuang City? Yes. He nodded. I hesitated for a long time before I sealed the immortal body into Madame Bao's body. However, I did not expect that even though it was just an immortal body that I casually created, the Bao family would use so much immortal qi in their immortal meridians to allow it to be born. As a result, this fetus became an innate sword embodiment. So the innate sword embodiment was caused by excessive nutrition? Did Chef know about this? What was even more coincidental was that the innate sword embodiment attracted a demon. Because of the demonic qi, the demonic seed in my body could not be purged. He wanted to make me completely demonic before I recovered my memories. He frowned deeply. I woke up at the last moment. Now there is no way to completely purge the demonic seed. Great Immortal. Before he could finish speaking, his expression changed. In a shrill voice he shouted, Sect Master Shen, don't listen to him. I'm Ning Ziyan. He was lying to you. Do you remember? The last time you had dinner you asked me if I wanted some pastries? Believe me, Chingu really wanted to possess you. All right. I believe you? Shining nodded. Actually, the demonic seed paused. Great Immortal. Chingu exclaimed. Shining ignored him. She turned to the Demon King and said, Little Black. Yes. The Demon King immediately stood up straight. You can pull one of them out, right? Of course, I'm a professional. The Demon King immediately patted his chest and promised. Great Immortal, watch me. All right then, let's drag that ugly one out. The demonic seed. What happened to believing him? Chapter 131. Let's begin. Shining urged. She still had to rush home for dinner. The Demon King did not waste any time. He conjured a seal. Ning Ziyan's expression changed. He turned to run, but after taking a few steps, he squatted down with a pained expression on his face. His entire body curled up into a ball. Black qi surrounded him. Something was floating out of his body. The Demon King stepped forward and reached out to pull something out of Ning Ziyan's body. After a while he had a black ball with a red dot in his hand. The black demonic scars on Ning Ziyan's face disappeared completely. But compared to before, his aura was much weaker. His face was pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Even the thick immortal qi around his body had dissipated a lot. Thank you. He forced himself to look up. When he saw the Demon King frown, he immediately turned to Shining. Thank you, Sect Master Shen, for your help. Shining did not reply. Instead, she looked at the ball of black and red qi in the Demon King's hand and asked, What do we do with this? Burn it? Ning Ziyan's face paled, but he did not speak. Great Immortal. The Demon King lowered his voice and reminded her, This demonic seed has already become one with his mental demons. It is now a part of him. If we destroy it, he will die too. Oh. Shining nodded. That meant that he now had a split body. One dead, two dead? The settings of this world were so troublesome. Is there any other way? Sect Master Shen, don't worry. Ning Ziyan took a deep breath and stood up. Let me take care of this. As he said that, he took the mass of black gas, raised his hand and laid down an array formation. He chanted a long incantation, and after a while rays of golden light appeared around his body, and countless talismans quickly flew into the mass of black gas. Reincarnation seal? The Demon King was shocked. He subconsciously opened his mouth and frowned. The next moment he saw that he had taken out a golden lotus and thrown it into the ball of black chi. He paused again. So that's how it is. Hey, explain. Ying, the only one who did not understand what was happening, kicked the Demon King beside her. Reporting to Great Immortal. The Demon King immediately started to explain. He used the Tranquil Heart Lotus as a catalyst to activate the reincarnation seal. He directly sent the heart demon out of his body to be reincarnated. This way he could borrow the power of reincarnation to purify his inner demons. Secondly, the Tranquil Heart Lotus was a sacred object of the celestial world, and it could eliminate evil thoughts. In other words, after its rebirth, it will no longer have the chance to become a demon. Oh. Zhang Xian didn't understand. But in the next moment, the cloud of black gas and the lotus flower slowly fused into one. After a short while it began to take shape. After a quarter of an hour, the black gas and the lotus flower disappeared, and a sleeping baby appeared on the ground. Wow, high-tech. Xin Ying's eyes widened. Ningzi and picked up the baby from the ground with some difficulty. He looked at her and said, "She won't remember anything from the past. After 3 more rounds of reincarnation she will become a real person. Her connection with me will also be severed. When we return to the immortal world I will personally send her to the lower realm." She stepped forward to take a look and found that it was a baby girl with a red lotus mark on her forehead. The corner of his mouth twitched. This reincarnation technology was imported from Thailand? It even had the ability to change one's gender. Since it's settled, let's go back. I'm leaving. Xining pointed at the open door. She had just taken 2 steps when she realized that the little kid was not following her. Is there anything else? Sect Master Xin, my problem has been settled, but the door to the demon realm has been opened. He frowned deeply and turned to look at the Demon King behind him warily. I don't know what your relationship with this demon is, and what kind of agreement did you make? What kind of agreement did they reach? However, the fiend race has always been eyeing our immortal world covetously. We definitely can't ignore them. Kid, don't spout nonsense. Before Xining could speak, the Demon King jumped up in fright. His whole body trembled. Who's eyeing the demon race? Who wants to go to the immortal world? I don't care. Don't spout nonsense in front of Great Immortal. I just helped him, but this kid immediately repaid my kindness with enmity. Just you wait. He immediately put on a pitiful expression and looked at Xining seriously. Great Immortal, I really have no intention of invading the immortal world. Don't worry, I promise to inform all the demons immediately. Not a single demon will dare to step out of this door. Whoever steps out, I will stomp on his foot. You have to believe me. Oh. Xining did not seem to mind at all. She patted the Demon King's shoulder and said, I believe you. Great Immortal. The Demon King heaved a sigh of relief. So his flattery had worked. Sect Master Xin. Ning Zian was shocked. His face was full of disapproval. How could the demon believe her? He was just about to persuade her. Xining directly grabbed him and said, All right, let's go back. Great Immortal, take care. Just as Xining was about to jump out of the door to the demon realm, she suddenly turned back and added, Oh yes, I forgot to tell you. I live right at this door. The Demon King, what happened to trust? Was this a threat? It was definitely a threat. The moment Xining stepped out of the door, she could clearly feel that the demonic chi around her was much thinner than before. However, Ningxian had been in the demon realm for too long. In addition, he had forcefully used the reincarnation seal earlier. Before he could pass through the door, he fainted. Xining had no choice but to grab him with one hand and carry the baby with the other. Then she jumped out of the door. Master. I Ching was the first to approach her. Just as he was about to approach her, he paused and looked at the person in her arms. This is. Why was there an extra baby? The Bao father and son and the other disciples all gathered around them. Little one. Bao Yi immediately took Ning Zian from her hands and checked his pulse. Then he heaved a sigh of relief. He also noticed the baby girl in Xin Ying's arms. Sect Master Shen, this child is? Why did 2 people go in but 3 came out? Xining turned and stuffed the baby girl into Bao Feiping's arms. Your granddaughter. Bao Feiping, Bao Yi, granddaughter? Little one was only 8 years old, hey? Could they ask who gave birth to her? Is it settled? Lone Moon stepped forward and asked. Yes. Xining nodded. Where did you go? What exactly happened in there? Nothing much. I just went to the Demon King's palace. The Demon King's palace. Lone Moon exclaimed. Even the people around them turned to look at her. You saw the Demon King? Yes. Shining nodded naturally. He looks quite like a rabbit. Rabbit? Lone Moon paused. She couldn't be talking about the rabbit monarch, could she? Suddenly he did not feel like asking. What did she do to the Demon King? Chapter 132. Don't worry, the demons won't come again, Shining promised. Lone Moon looked up at the gate that was still floating in the air, then turned to look at the demonic chi that had not dissipated. Even if they don't come, what should we do next? They could not let the demonic chi surround the invincible sect forever. Shining frowned too. The smog was indeed a big problem. How about, I get Little Black to come and ask? You should not have gone far. Little Black. What the hell? Wait, what are you doing? He was about to ask, but Shining had already turned to jump back through the gate. Before he could grab her, suddenly, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky, directly striking the huge gate of the demonic world in the air. With a loud bang, the whole gate suddenly collapsed. With a crash, it broke into pieces on the ground. Huge black rocks fell down one by one. But the moment they landed, they turned into dust. The entrance to the demonic world disappeared. I Ching suddenly said. Everyone looked up. Sure enough, the big black hole at the door disappeared with the disappearance of the giant door. Even the gloomy sky suddenly became clear again. If not for the demonic chi that was still around the invincible sect, people could not help but wonder if the gate of the demonic world had really appeared before. What's going on? Did the demonic world destroy the entrance? Everyone was at a loss. No one knew what was going on. But the disappearance of the gate of the demonic world made everyone heave a sigh of relief. Only Shining looked up at a certain spot in the sky, frowning. That bolt of lightning. The gate of the demonic world was destroyed and even the entrance disappeared. But the demonic chi around the invincible sect could not be stuffed back into the demonic world. But the immortal chi in the sect was so thick that it was not enough to completely disperse the demonic chi. Lone Moon initially thought of moving, but soon discovered that because the demonic chi was too thick, all the disciples had to use all their strength to defend against the demonic chi to ensure that they would not be hurt. This way, over time, it stimulated their potential, and they were automatically in a state of movement. Because of this, many disciples' cultivation levels did not decrease but increased. Because he was supporting the formation, his cultivation level had also loosened. In just a few months, he had directly advanced from an earth immortal to a golden immortal. Therefore, he immediately changed his mind about moving. This was not demonic chi, it was simply a natural upgrade array. He directly modified the mountain guarding formation, completely isolating the demonic chi in the sect so that it only surrounded the sect. This way they could defend against external enemies and they could also use it as a training ground. When he had nothing to do, he would go in and level up in a masochistic manner. It was more useful than any training. This could be considered a blessing in disguise. The entire sect was no longer in a state of panic. Everyone was beaming with joy. The Bao father and son were not happy at all. Their son, grandson, whom they had painstakingly saved, had suddenly become Celestial Emperor Qin Gu. Be it in terms of status or cultivation, he was several generations above them. Furthermore, they had a great-granddaughter now. It was hard for them to accept this in such a short period of time. The few of them had no intention of staying at Invincible Sect any longer. Once Ning Xian's injuries were more or less healed, they bade him farewell. Lone Moon politely sent the few of them down the mountain. Seeing that the atmosphere was obviously not as harmonious as when they first arrived, he did not ask any further questions. Brother Lone Moon, are you sure you don't want to follow us to Jingxing City? Bao Feiping looked up at the demonic chi around Invincible Sect that had yet to dissipate. He reminded Lone Moon worriedly, this is demonic chi after all, and we can't be sure if the gates to the demonic realm will appear again. Bao Feiping, who did not know what had happened to the demonic realm, looked very worried. Thank you for your kind intentions, City Lord. Lone Moon smiled. It is precisely because the gates to the demonic realm are unstable that our sect has to stay here. He had misunderstood previously. He did not expect Shining to be so powerful. He only regretted that he did not let Shining stay longer in the demonic realm. It was such a good opportunity, yet he did not manage to extort money from her. What a loss. He listened to her calling him daddy every day, yet she did not receive any of his teachings. Your sect is really righteous. Bao Feiping, who had completely misunderstood the situation, sighed in admiration. He turned back to look at his son. His appearance had not changed, but his entire body was emitting thick immortal qi. Bao Feiping looked at Lone Moon with a complicated expression. He opened his mouth wanting to say something but stopped himself. "City Lord, if you have something to say, just say it," Lone Moon said. Bao Feiping smiled and said, I mean the matter regarding Celestial Emperor Qinggu is very important. Could you please keep it a secret for now? After all, the Celestial Emperor's cultivation has not fully recovered. He might have to stay with the Bao family for a period of time. He cannot reveal his identity. With that said, he added in a low voice, "This is the Celestial Emperor's wish. Brother Lone Moon, you should understand." Lone Moon frowned. He was not happy with the threat in Bao Feiping's last sentence. However, seeing how worried Bao Feiping was, Lone Moon nodded and said, "Don't worry. Only Shining, I Ching and I know about this. We will not make it public." "Thank you, Brother Lone Moon." Bao Feiping heaved a sigh of relief and said goodbye once more. Then he turned and walked towards the three people behind him. He first bowed to Ningxin, then summoned his sword and flew away. Lone Moon looked at them awkwardly. He did not know what the Bao family was thinking. Were they happy to have someone to rely on? Or were they humiliated by being fooled by their superiors? After all, this was someone else's business. He did not think too much about it. After all, he would not have much contact with them in the future. Indeed, he should stay away from the male lead. Once the Bao family left, the entire Invincible sect began their daily cultivation routine. Lone Moon even drew up a detailed cultivation plan and watched over the disciples' cultivation every day. This was obviously effective. In just 2 short years, Yu Hong and Siyu had successfully become true Earth Immortals. Most of the other disciples also showed signs of forming immortal bones. Even Bitao was showing signs of breaking through to become a golden immortal. Just as the entire sect was working hard to level up, they received an unexpected piece of news from the capital city. "Summoning order?" Shining paused. "What is it?" "It's from the capital city." Lone Moon threw a red token to I Ching and said, "It says you have to rush over within 3 days. "Why, chef? How would I know?" Lone Moon was a little annoyed. "This thing flew in on its own. It's not like you didn't see it." "Maybe it's because he's a sword immortal and has just become a Stygian immortal," Bitao guessed. Chongzhen is considered a powerful country in the northern wilderness continent. There are not many exalted immortals there. Anyone who becomes an exalted immortal will be summoned to the capital city once. The immortal emperor will reward them. Although fellow immortal I Ching is not an exalted immortal, he is a sword immortal. He is not much weaker than an exalted immortal. "So you mean he's summoned to be rewarded?" Lone Moon paused. "Then why now? Hasn't he been a Stygian immortal for more than 2 years?" "Maybe it's because Chu Shuang City discovered the gates to the demonic realm," Bitao continued. "That's why he's only thinking about it now. Do you want to go?" Shining looked at Chef. I Ching frowned, showing that he was not interested in receiving a reward. "We have to go, Great Immortal," Bitao said anxiously. "Otherwise, it would be disrespectful to His Majesty. Our sect is in Chongzhen's territory after all. If we offend the Immortal Emperor, I'm afraid nothing good will come out of it." Shining was a little annoyed. "This is so troublesome. I can't even stay at home." Chapter 133. Shining and Lone Moon followed I Ching to Shangdu together. Although the teleportation array in the immortal realm was obviously of a much higher level than the one in the lower realm, they still spent a whole 3 days to rush from Invincible Sect to Shangdu, the capital of Chongzhen Nation. Compared to Chu Shuang City, Shangdu was obviously much bigger. This was a city built completely above the clouds. Between the clouds, there were all kinds of antique buildings, especially in the center. A huge palace floated high above all the other immortal palaces, dazzling with gold and jade. At the very front of the city stood a city gate so high that the top could not be seen. There were no guards at the gate, but there was a huge array in the middle, surrounded by dermic talismans shining with golden light. I Ching took out the summoning token. Instantly there was a flash of red light, and the token flew directly into the gate. The array in the gate began to dim, revealing a passage. The three walked in directly. The moment they stepped through the gate, the scenery in front of them changed. Immediately, more immortal palaces appeared. The surroundings were filled with fog and auspicious clouds. There were white immortal palaces everywhere, and from time to time, the cries of immortal cranes could be heard. Between the immortal palaces there was a white jade staircase. Each step floated independently and many immortals stood on it, moving on their own. Even the random plants growing by the side of the road were rare spirit flowers and rare herbs in the lower realm. They had just stood at the gate when an immortal in green flew towards them from afar. Lone Moon looked at him casually and found that he was actually a Stygian immortal. That person bowed respectfully to them and said, "May I ask which of the three of you is Sword Immortal I Ching?" The three of them paused, then thought of the token that flew in and understood. I Ching stepped forward. "I am. Fellow Immortal I Ching." That person smiled and became even more polite. He stepped sideways and said, "His Majesty has ordered me to wait here. Since Fellow Immortal is here, please follow me into War-Stopping Palace and pay your respects to His Majesty." So soon? I Ching was stunned. Wasn't this a normal summoning? The Immortal Emperor would actually meet him personally, and they had just entered the city. Not really soon. That person smiled even more kindly. "I have been waiting here for Fellow Immortal for 3 days. 3 days. This time it wasn't just I Ching, even Lone Moon was confused and frowned subconsciously. It seemed like this Immortal Emperor held I Ching in high regard. "Since that's the case, we'll wait for you in the city." Lone Moon handed him a transmission talisman. "Come and find us after you come out." I Ching frowned and turned to Shining. "Master, go ahead." Shining nodded. Only then did I Ching turn to look at the immortal receiving them. "Please?" The man nodded and led I Ching all the way to the dazzling golden and dazzling huge palace in the Immortal Palace. "Let's find a place to stay first, then go to the city to take a look." Seeing that the two of them had gone far away, Lone Moon excitedly pointed to the city, his face full of eagerness. Suddenly recalling something, he instructed, "You stay close to me, don't run around." Shining nodded. But in view of a certain someone's dark history of getting lost, Lone Moon thought about it and still grabbed her hand, pulling her all the way to a place that looked like a restaurant. First they got a private room. Seeing that it was almost noon, they ordered a table full of dishes. "I don't know how long I Ching will take, you eat first. I'm going to the city to look for business opportunities, I'll be back soon." This time he came to Xanadu not just to accompany I Ching, but mainly for Invincible Sect. Ning Zi'an's appearance disrupted all his plans. His original plan to earn money naturally went up in smoke. Ever since the Bao family father and son went to the new city, they had sent those people over, but he really did not want to have anything to do with them, so he sent them back. Perhaps they also understood his intentions. These 2 years they did not come looking for him. So this time he came to Xanadu no matter what to find a way for Invincible Sect to earn money, otherwise they would really run out of food. If it were other immortal disciples it would be fine, but if it was Shining, that foodie, he could imagine that once they ran out of food she would turn around and turn the sky upside down. "Listen, don't run around." "Yes, Father Nyo." Looking at the table full of dishes, Shining was in a good mood and immediately started eating. It was not as good as chef's, but it was still not bad. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Why did he have the illusion that in the entire sect, he was the only one worrying for nothing? For the 101st time, he regretted it for being blind to have boarded Xin Ying's pirate ship. Father Nyo was very good at doing business. He said he was going to look for business opportunities, and soon after he left, he settled it. Shining had not even finished eating when she saw him from afar, leading a round, jade-like, very affluent immortal. The two walked in, talking and laughing, looking as if they were going to become sworn brothers in the next second. "This is?" The round immortal walked straight in, and saw Shining at the table with a piece of meat in her hand, stunned. "Air." The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched as if he had just remembered Shining and had to explain, "Shining, my sect master." He said the last 2 words very softly. "So it's Sect Master Shen, it's an honor to meet you." The immortal immediately cupped his fists and bowed. Shining returned a smile and gave Father Nyo a push. "Who is this?" "This is Exalted Immortal Shu Jiang, still the most famous alchemy immortal in Upper Capital City, a high-level alchemist. Half of the high-level immortal pills in Chonglan Nation's immortal cities come from his hands." Lone Moon smiled brightly, and then sent a voice transmission to Shining, the richest man in the city. Oh. Shining understood immediately. Father Nyo was indeed worthy of being called back by the richest man in just an hour, and an exalted immortal at that. "Brother Lone Moon, you praise me too much." Shu Jiang smiled and said, "It's fate that we met. If there's anything you need me for in the future, just let me know." "It's just that." Something flashed in his eyes and he looked at Shining and said vaguely, "I wonder if what fellow immortal said just now is true?" Brother Shu is talking about that sacred ground? Of course it's true. Seeing that Xu Jiang was not afraid of Shining, he asked directly, is there really such a magical place? Lone Moon nodded hard and said, didn't I bring Brother Shu here to verify this matter? If you're worried, why don't we start now? His face lit up and he seemed to have thought of something. Brother Lone Moon, please wait. Suddenly he took out a white Dharma artifact that looked like a bell and placed it on the table. Immediately a white light flashed from the bell. A moment later, a transparent barrier surrounded the entire private room. The commotion outside instantly quietened down. I know that Brother Lone Moon trusts me, but this matter is very important, it's better to be careful. Brother Shu is really thoughtful. Lone Moon nodded and then took out a talisman. This is it. Isn't this a spirit transmission talisman? Chapter 134. That's right. Lone Moon stopped smiling and said anxiously, that holy land is located far away and it's extremely dangerous. I'm afraid it won't be easy for me to enter with my real body. If Brother Shu trusts me, you can split your divine sense and I will use this talisman to send you in. Xu Jiang hesitated for a moment, a look of struggle flashed across his face, but after a while he gritted his teeth and nodded. I believe Brother Lone Moon, let's begin. With that said, he stood up and moved the chair away, closing his eyes and sitting cross-legged on the ground. Not long after, a shadow suddenly appeared on his body, and his divine sense left his body. Lone Moon smiled as he stepped forward and said, Brother Shu, remember, although that place is magical, it is also an illusory realm. An extremely terrifying scene will appear. Don't stay for too long. If you can't hold on any longer, just come back. Seeing him nod, Lone Moon directly activated the talisman in his hand and slapped it on the illusory figure. Instantly, Xu Jiang's illusory figure disappeared from the private room. Where did you send him? Shining asked casually as she ate. Lone Moon sat down calmly and poured himself a glass of water. I sent it to Invincible Sect. The one who prepared it said that it was sent to the foot of the mountain. Foot of the mountain? Shining paused and looked at him from the corner of her eyes. What did you trick him into? He took a sip of water and his eyes narrowed like a fox's. What do you mean by scam? I just told him that I found a holy land that could quickly improve his cultivation. Whether it was his skills, comprehension, or even his state of mind and divine sense, they could all be improved quickly. What sacred land? Why didn't she know that there was such a place at the foot of Invincible Sect's mountain? It's the devil chi. The demonic chi in Invincible Sect could indeed stimulate one's potential. It would be a waste not to use such a natural place to level up to earn money. I've already asked around. He's the richest person in Chongzhen. Half of the shops in the city belong to him. If we want to turn Invincible Sect into a high-end, grand and luxurious place for cultivation, we can't do without his help. So, all you did was sell him some demonic chi? Was there anything Father Nyo couldn't sell? It was no wonder that he had spent half a day setting up an array formation at the foot of the mountain with Yu Hong and the rest. Is it because of this? This is marketing packaging. Do you understand packaging? Moreover, it was his divine sense that entered, not his body. There is no danger of demonic chi entering the body. Air? However, the demonic aura was so obvious. Wasn't he afraid that this person would see through the truth after coming out and find trouble with him? I won't. As if he knew what she was thinking, Lone Moon smiled slyly. Just as he was thinking, the person sitting on the ground suddenly shuddered and woke up abruptly. Lone Moon immediately walked over, only to see that his forehead was covered in cold sweat, and his face was so pale that there was not a trace of blood in it. Brother Lone Moon there? He grabbed Lone Moon frantically as if he wanted to say something. Brother Shu, don't be anxious. Lone Moon immediately interrupted him and resumed his expression of a profiteer. He smiled like a flower and said, the things you see in the Holy Land's illusion vary from person to person, but they are not real. Don't be anxious. Take a look at your divine sense and adjust your breath. Xu Jiang was taken aback. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes to regulate his breathing and began to look inside. The next moment, however, his eyes widened in surprise. My divine sense. He actually found that his divine sense was actually a little stronger than before. Although this change was very small, it was a miracle for him, whose cultivation had not improved in tens of thousands of years. The key was that he had just entered for less than a quarter of an hour. Xu Jiang's face was instantly filled with joy. As if unable to suppress the joy in his heart, he stood up and said excitedly, Brother Lone Moon was right. There is actually such a magical place in this world. I also came across this place by chance. The only bad thing is that this holy land can confuse people's minds. By the way, what did Brother Shu see in there just now? He asked deliberately. Shu Jiang stiffened, his eyes flashed, and immediately changed the topic. Nothing? By the way, Lone Moon really wants to share this holy land with all the immortals? Of course. Lone Moon did not ask again. Another way to confuse the mind was to be trapped by mental demons. Anyone who had reached his level of cultivation would not easily admit to being affected by mental demons. That was why he dug a trap here from the beginning, to make everyone who entered think that the demonic chi they saw was just an illusion. So they would definitely not have any doubts about this. Seeing that he had convinced Shu Jiang, Lone Moon immediately entered into business mode and began to enthusiastically discuss the Holy Land development plan. Shining was dumbfounded. The two of them had already set a sky-high price for an ordinary spirit transmission talisman. Silently giving a thumbs up to someone's business skills, she continued to eat her own food. Sure enough, your father is your father. The world of the rich is so hard to understand. The two chatted directly until the sun set. Shining ate from lunch to afternoon tea and then to dinner. Only then did the two reach a preliminary cooperation plan. Lone Moon gave 10 spirit transmission talismans to Shu Jiang and arranged for a new batch of people to be tricked. Oh no, to enter the Holy Land to cultivate to enter after the auction 3 months later. To show his sincerity, Shu Jiang even paid a storage bag of supreme-grade immortal stones as a deposit. Shining did not know exactly how much, but seeing how Lone Moon added 3 dishes for her without saying anything, she guessed it was probably an astronomical figure that she could not imagine. Shining was planning to take advantage of Father Nyo's good mood to apply for a midnight snack when Chef, who had been gone for a day, finally returned. Master. Hey Chef. Shining waved her hand. He scanned the room and his gaze landed on Shu Jiang. Frowning, he asked, "This is? Why was there another little bitch?" "Greetings, fellow immortal." Shu Jiang smiled and took the initiative to greet him. "I'm Shu Jiang. Exalted immortal." I Ching nodded. "What took you so long?" Lone Moon looked at the sky outside and realized that a day had passed unknowingly. "What happened to you in the Immortal Palace?" "Nothing." Seeming to have thought of something, I Ching frowned and said, "The Immortal Emperor wanted to give me Qinghan City. I rejected it." "What?" The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He did not expect the so-called reward to be an immortal city. The key was that he rejected it. This prodigal. Why did he work so hard to earn money for? Why did he suddenly give you an immortal city? Shining asked casually. Lone Moon paused and then reacted. That's right. There were many exalted immortals in Chonglan, but not all of them could become a city lord. What's more, I Ching was only a Stygian immortal. Why did he value him so much? It couldn't be that he took a liking to a talent like him at first sight, could it? Other things aside, Lone Moon knew I Ching's character. He was not a pleasing immortal. I don't know. I Ching shook his head and walked to Xin Ying's side. Habitually, he poured her a cup of tea and continued, "But he wants me to go to Yufeng Immortal Region in a month's time to participate in some big test." Yufeng Immortal Region sword seeking. As soon as he finished speaking, Shu Jiang suddenly exclaimed. His eyes widened as he looked at I Ching. You're a sword immortal? What did he mean? Xin Ying and Lone Moon both turned to look at Shu Jiang. Shu Jiang's face was full of excitement. He looked at I Ching with even more excitement than when he first emerged from the demonic chi. Fellow immortal was actually chosen by His Majesty to search for the sword. You're so lucky. What do you mean by searching for the sword? Shining asked. Shu Jiang could not suppress the excitement in his heart. He took a deep breath and explained in a low voice, "Do the 3 of you know where Yufeng Immortal Region is?" Chapter 135. The Yulin Immortal Territory is an immortal mystic realm located in the outer immortal realm. Shu Jiang introduced it mysteriously. Legend has it that it was a land left behind by the divine race in ancient times. The environment inside is extremely dangerous, but there are many opportunities. Legend has it that the various celestial emperors found the 10 Directions divine weapon here. 10 Directions divine weapon? Lone Moon frowned. What's that? It's a creation treasure left behind by the ancient divine race after they split the heavens and split the earth. Shu Jiang explained. I heard that the reason why the 10 Directions celestial emperors could rule over an area was not only because they had the highest cultivation, but also because they had this divine weapon in their hands. Legend has it that these divine weapons have the power to split the heavens and split the earth. Then what about searching for the sword? I Ching asked. Oh, that's because although the 10 Directions divine weapon has already been found by the celestial emperors, legend has it that the divine weapon used by the god of creation to split the heavens, the six-joint sword, has been sleeping in this immortal territory, waiting for the fated one. Heaven-splitting divine weapon? Shining paused. Is it to split the heavens? Xu Jiang nodded vigorously. Legend has it that the six-joint sword is indeed that powerful. It can split the heavens and split the realms. It's not impossible for it to travel through the 3 realms. Oh, that's not that difficult, is it? It's just opening a door. Lone Moon and I Ching's mouths twitched. They instantly recalled a certain someone's heroic feat of tearing the realm gate apart with her bare hands. Their curiosity towards a certain divine weapon plummeted to freezing point. Haha, what kind of lousy divine weapon could compare to a cheat? There was no need to go to this place at all. Aha, fellow immortal Shin must be joking. Xu Jiang, however, thought she was joking, and then he continued. Even though this Yulin immortal region is dangerous, there are countless rare and precious treasures within it. Even the rocks, forests, and soil that cover the ground are all high-grade materials for forging immortal artifacts. Perhaps any random rock on the roadside can be used to forge a 4th or 5th grade immortal weapon. It's rare to come across one in the immortal realm. Artifact refining. Go. You must go. Lone Moon patted I Ching's shoulder. I Ching, I think you've just ascended to the Stygian immortal stage and need more training. You must not miss this opportunity. Not going. I Ching rejected immediately and continued to pour more tea for the person beside him. This trip will take more than 3 months. It's too long. Master cannot be left alone. Who knows what other little B** cheese you will bring to snatch my master away. Lone Moon wanted to beat this crazy fan to death. Did she not know that the invincible sect lacked weapons the most now? Why didn't he have one? What a great opportunity. He gritted his teeth and turned to Shining. Can you control your disciple? But it's really too long. 3 months. Next month's food allowance will be doubled. Chef Father Nyo is right. Shining looked at I Ching seriously. For the sake of invincible sect, we cannot let go of this opportunity. I Ching, that's right. Lone Moon's eyes lit up as he continued, or maybe you can ask that immortal emperor to bring Shining and me along. I'm afraid that won't do. Before I Ching could speak, Xu Jiang spoke first. Brother Lone Moon, you don't know this. This Yulin immortal domain only opens once every 1,000 years. To enter you have to cross the Miao River. This river does not allow anything. Only one item can cross the river. Fellow immortal I Ching, the immortal emperor should have given this item to you, right? I Ching paused. As if remembering, he hurriedly took out a green leaf. He gave this to me when I entered the immortal palace. He said it was to congratulate me on becoming a Stygian immortal. That's it. Xu Jiang said with certainty. This is the winter spirit leaf. Only young Emperor Sun Shu of the Shangdong immortal abode in East Marsh has it. Shining glanced at the palm-sized leaf in his hand. It looked just like a big 4-leaf clover. It couldn't be fed to frogs. There was nothing special about it. Not only that, outside the Yulin immortal domain, there are huge groups of sword chi all year round. If one is not a sword immortal who has a deep understanding of sword intent, or if one's cultivation has reached the extreme of a celestial emperor, one cannot enter. He continued to explain. That's why His Majesty let sword immortals be the people searching for the sword. So that was it. That meant that they needed a pass. They could not go just because they wanted to. Brother Shu, that young Emperor Sun Shu, what is he like? Brother Lone Moon, don't be rash. Seeing that I Ching was not giving up, Xu Jiang continued to persuade him. Only sword immortals can enter the Yulin immortal domain. I am. What? He was actually a sword immortal too. When did sword immortals become so common? Then. He looked at Shining. It couldn't be such a coincidence, could it? Oh, you don't have to worry about her. He patted I Ching's shoulder confidently. Not to mention the fact that there's sword chi to block it. Even if she doesn't block it, it would be bullying. Xu Jiang, I Ching, Shining. Son of AB***, East Marsh. The new partner, Xu Jiang, said that young Emperor Sun Shu was a strange person. Although he had long cultivated to the level of a young emperor, he lived alone in the most remote immortal abode in East Wilderness. He did not like to interact with others. He liked to plant flowers and plants, but they were not immortal herbs or herbs. You just liked it? When Lone Moon heard that, he realized that Sun Shu was an environmental immortal. So 5 days later, he and Xin Ying stood outside the Shangdong immortal abode, holding a resentful radish in his hand. Little missy, are you really going to abandon me? Radish's leaves looked like salted vegetables. It looked sad. No, Radish was born as a radish and died as your divination. Can you bear to let my pure body be tainted by others? Xin Ying looked at it and sighed. I can bear to. It was a vegetable anyway. Radish. His heart hurt. Who's outside the abode? Suddenly, a voice sounded beside his ear, carrying with it a faint immortal pressure. Lone Moon felt his heart stop. He took a deep breath to ease the pressure. He stepped forward and said, I am Lone Moon, a sword cultivator from Invincible Sect. I am here to see young Emperor Sun. A sword cultivator? That person snorted coldly, full of disdain. Another person who is not afraid of death and wants to enter the immortal domain to find a sword. Come in. As soon as he finished speaking, the stone wall in front of him, which originally had the words Shangdong Immortal Abode written on it, suddenly opened to reveal a human-sized hole. Inside, immortal qi overflowed, faintly carrying the aura of plants. Only then did Lone Moon step forward. He pulled a certain someone who looked like she was about to fall asleep next to him and walked straight in. In the blink of an eye, the scene in front of them changed. A sea of flowers appeared, with all kinds of flowers blooming all over the ground. Not far away was a small building. The small building was not big, but it was built with white bamboo. It was sparkling and translucent, like a crystal palace. The immortal energy above it even made the small building shine with multicolored light. Could be said that it was quite flashy. Even more flashy was the person sitting on the lounge chair. He was dressed in a dazzling red robe, the long hem of his robe swaying on the ground like a red flower. His long hair reached the ground and was scattered behind his back. His robe was half open and his eyes were like silk. If not for the fact that his chest was flat and he was very much a man, Lone Moon would have called him a seductive slut. Sun Shu glanced at the person who entered, the disdain in his eyes growing. Greetings, young Emperor Sun. Lone Moon stepped forward and bowed politely. You're the sword immortal who came to ask for the winter spirit leaf? He suddenly laughed and turned around, causing a wave of red to appear on his robe. Looking at him from the front, he looked even more stunning. It was as if all the words in the world could not match his looks. Even the human-shaped radish in front of him did not have such a color. Xin Ying, who was still sleeping at the side, took a step forward, her eyes widening. Lone Moon was shocked. He hurriedly pulled her back and said in a low voice, Hey, don't be seduced by his beauty. We have serious matters to attend to. No. Xin Ying blinked, still looking in that direction. I'm just curious. Curious about what? His robe? It's so long robe. It's not strange for a man to wear red robes, is it? Just as he was thinking, he heard Xin Ying say, It's so long, won't you step on it? Ha! Just as she finished speaking, she saw the person on the other side stand up. You think the winter spirit leaf. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly stepped on his own robe. His body swayed and he fell forward heavily, smashing his face into the mud. Lone Moon, Xin Ying, so why was he acting cool at home? Chapter 136. Sun Shu got up quickly. His expression changed and he stood up immediately. He tore off his clothes and tore them to shreds. He even stomped on the clothes to vent his anger. With a wave of his hand, another blue robe appeared and draped over him. But this time it did not have the long hem. Cough, what are you doing here? Oh yes, I don't give my winter spirit leaves to just anyone. He coughed and resumed his cold demeanor. It was as if the person who had just fallen was not him, if not for the fresh mud on his face. Lone Moon, Xin Ying, that? Young Emperor Sun. Father Niu was an experienced negotiator after all. He was the first to recover and put on a serious expression. We know that this is precious, but we heard that young Emperor Sun has always been generous. Besides, you are the only one who has this winter spirit leaf. That's why. When they saw that he was still unmoved, they immediately handed over the radish in their hands, which had a face full of resentment. I heard that young Emperor is the most elegant deity in the immortal realm. We inadvertently obtained a vegetation spirit, so we are most familiar with plants. As long as it stays here for 3 months, I guarantee that the plants in young Emperor's garden will become even more beautiful. Gg. The radish began to struggle as soon as he finished speaking. It did not want to stay here for 3 months. Vegetation spirit? Young Emperor Sun Shu glanced over and saw the radish in Lonman's hand. His expression was one of disgust. How can such an ugly weed be planted in my garden? GGG. You're the ugly one. Your whole family is ugly. Lonman's mouth twitched. This Sun Shu was not only pretentious, he was also obsessed with appearances. After some thought, he shook the radish and said, "Radish, cooperate with me. Change back to your human form." The radish did become bigger, but not in human form. With a flash of white light, it turned from a small radish to a big radish. Lonman's hand became heavy. He lost his balance and almost knelt down. Shit. This stinky radish was only here for 3 months. Why was it throwing a tantrum? Do you believe that I will throw you to I Ching tonight and make you into stew? The radish was not threatened at all. It replied, "Pooey." Slowly it returned to its original size. Add more dishes for tonight. All right. Sun Shu wasn't interested in the vegetation spirit. He took out a fan from somewhere and with his muddy face still on, he said in a self-righteous manner, "You don't have to think of ways to please me. If you want this winter spirit leaf, you just have to follow my rules." He thought for a moment and with a flip of his palm, a white box appeared in his hand. With a wave of his hand, a small silver sword appeared in the box. It flew around the two of them and then flew back into the box in his hand. You want to enter the immortal domain because you are sword immortals and have a deeper understanding of sword arts. He raised the box in his hand and said, "The sword in this box is also a treasure. It is my weapon, a 10th grade immortal sword. This box was made of spirit-absorbing stones. If you have the ability, open this box and take out the sword inside and I will give you the winter spirit leaf. Otherwise, with your abilities, you will only die if you enter." With that said, he turned and waved his hand. Immediately, a tree about the height of 3 people appeared behind him. The tree was densely covered with the same 4-leaf clover that I Ching had in his hand. Really? Lonman's eyes lit up and he confirmed again. "I am a dignified young emperor. Why would I lie to a mere sword immortal like you?" Sun Shu did not think that the two of them would be able to open it. When he first arrived at the door, he had checked their cultivation level. One was at most an earth immortal, and the other was a golden immortal. Even exalted immortals could not open this 10th grade immortal artifact box. With that said, he waved his hand and the box flew in front of the two of them. Lone Moon caught it and understood what he was thinking. The spirit-absorbing stones were extremely sturdy and could block out immortal chi. In other words, the box could not be opened using immortal spells. It could only be opened by physical attacks. Given his cultivation level, there was no way he could open it. But he had a cheat. "Shining, take care of this box." He turned and handed the box to the person beside him. Shining might not have much else, but her physical attacks were definitely off the charts. Huh. Shining subconsciously took it. "How do I do that?" "Up to you. Just destroy it." "Oh." He thought for a moment, then added, "Just take out the..." Before he could finish speaking, there was a cracking sound. Shining tightened her grip, then loosened her grip. The supposedly indestructible spirit-absorbing box had turned into a pile of black ash, along with the immortal sword inside. "Take out what?" Shining finally heard him. She looked at the pile of ash in her palm. "Is it too late?" She should have said so earlier. Sun Shu, Lone Moon, a while later, my 10th grade immortal sword. Sun Shu sucked in a breath, his eyes widening. "Father Nyo, what do we do?" Shining trembled. Why did the other side suddenly look like they were going to eat her up? "You're asking me." Lone Moon was about to vomit blood. "Why did you crush it for no reason? Didn't you ask me to destroy it?" "I didn't ask you to destroy the sword too, young emperor." You. Sun Shu roared. The fan in his hand instantly turned into a long sword. He glared at them with bloodshot eyes. Lone Moon felt his heart drop. "It's over. Shining, what do we do?" "Run." Liao Ying turned around and started running for her life. Lone Moon felt a gust of wind blow past his ear. Then he disappeared. "Holy shit. I'm going to kill you." Sun Shu raised his sword and flew toward him. "Damn you. You're such a disloyal person. You brought..." Before Lone Moon could finish speaking, the figure that had just disappeared flew back like a gust of wind. Just as Sun Shu's sword was about to hit him, the figure picked him up and ran out again. Sun Shu missed his target. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. Yet he could not detect their auras. "You can run fast. Don't let me see." Before he could finish speaking, there was a whoosh. The two people from just now flew back again. This time, they passed him and rushed toward the front of the small building. They stopped, pulled up the tree, picked it up. Then, together with the winter spirit tree, they disappeared before his eyes again. Sun Shu, a while later, he only felt a pop in his head as if something had snapped. "You two little bastards, stop right there." Miao Shui River. I Ching, although this trip to Yufeng Immortal region is dangerous, it is also an opportunity for you. You have to do your best. Immortal Emperor Guyu smiled at the person in front of him. "If you can help me find the six-joint sword, I will reward you handsomely." "Thank you, Immortal Emperor." I Ching glanced behind him. A moment later he looked away and said, "I'm entering this place to train. As for whether I can find the divine artifact or not, that depends on fate. I can't guarantee anything." Guyu's expression changed. He was a little annoyed that Lone Moon did not know what was good for him. A moment later he recovered and said, "Of course." Looking at the sky he urged, "It's getting late. You'd better leave as soon as possible." "Wait a little longer." I Ching was still looking at the road he came from, but he still did not see any familiar figure. He could not help but frown. He had clearly agreed to meet Master at this hour. Why was she not here yet? Could she have gotten lost again? Immortal Emperor Guyu could not stand Lone Moon's attitude. Not only had Lone Moon repeatedly rejected his rewards at the Immortal Palace, he even said that he would consult Master about going to the Immortal region. Although he had agreed, he had lingered at Miao Shui River for half a day. Guyu had been an Immortal Emperor for a long time. It had been a long time since anyone had dared to disrespect him. Could it be that he was afraid of reneging on his promise? He was about to give him a few words to remind him not to be so arrogant just because he was a sword immortal, but Lone Moon suddenly spoke. "Coming." "What?" Before Guyu could react, a figure flashed past him. The next moment, a strong gust of wind blew past him, covering his face with dust. Two figures appeared by the river. One was a man with a pale face that looked like he was about to vomit. The other was a woman in green. She was carrying a huge tree on her shoulder. The leaves on the tree looked a little familiar. Those were winter spirit leaves. An entire tree. Chapter 137. Master Dash, Chef. Shin Ing threw the tree into the water and pulled the two of them up. "Hurry up and start the boat. Let's go, let's go." "Master, what are you doing?" Blarg. Before he could finish, Lone Moon could not hold it in any longer. He hugged the floating tree trunk and vomited. This was the first time he realized that besides motion sickness, there was also running sickness. Shining ran way too fast. "There's no time to explain. Paddle, paddle." Shining urged. I Ching looked confused, but he obediently conjured a wind seal. The three of them floated towards the river. The three of them, who were standing on the same tree, floated to the middle of the river. A furious roar came from the riverbank. "You two rascals, don't run if you have the guts. Stop right there." A figure dressed in blue suddenly appeared on the riverbank. His immortal chi shocked even Guyu. His eyes widened in disbelief. Young Emperor Sun, how did you? Didn't he never leave the Shangdong immortal abode?" Sun Shu ignored him. Instead, he picked up a leaf that had fallen from the riverbank and conjured a spell. The leaf instantly grew bigger and he threw it into the water. It flew up and chased after the three of them. As he sailed the boat, he shouted, "Let's see where you can run to. Come back." "Guyu." What was going on? Holy shit. Lone Moon turned back to look. His face, which had been green from vomiting, paled instantly. How did they catch up so quickly? "Shining, how did you manage to shake them off?" He hurried I Ching. "Chef, hurry up, wind, don't stop. You're the one who kept telling me to slow down." Shining rolled her eyes. "Otherwise they would not have caught up." "Damn it, how can you call that running? That was clearly teleportation, okay?" Lone Moon felt like puking. He took a deep breath and said, "What's more, why did you uproot the entire tree for no reason?" "You were the one who said there was a tree. That's why I went back to uproot it." "Was I referring to the tree?" "I was referring to the leaves." "Next time, can't you listen to what I have to say first?" "You're blaming me for a slip of the tongue? Forget it, hurry up and help me row." Lone Moon nudged her. Hurry. We just have to enter Yufeng Immortal territory. Only sword immortals can enter that place. You won't be able to catch up." As he spoke, he also formed a wind seal. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept past, and the entire tree was like an arrow that had been released from a bow. With a whoosh, it rushed towards the sword chi that filled the sky on the other side of the river. As long as he entered the Yufeng immortal territory, everything would be fine. As long as he entered, 5 minutes later, in Yufeng immortal realm. The three of them looked at the person in front of them, who was dressed in blue and had some dirt on his face, and was emitting a murderous aura. Lone Moon, Shining, I Ching, the scene was as quiet as a chicken. Ha 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 ha. For all. Ngun Girl flips table, you must be King kidding me? Why didn't anyone tell him that Sun Shu was also a sword immortal? Run, keep running. Sun Shu's coquettish face was filled with anger. His eyes were like knives stabbing at the three of them. I've never seen such shameless people like you. Not only did they destroy his supreme-grade immortal sword, they even dared to uproot his winter spirit tree. If he did not skin them alive, he would not be called Sun Shu. Ah, young Emperor Sun. If I said, we didn't uproot your tree on purpose, would you believe me? The corner of Loneman's mouth twitched as he laughed dryly. Sun Shu laughed coldly. It was as if there was a fire burning around him. If it were you, would you believe me? Lone Moon was stumped. He had no choice but to move the tree next to him a little. How about, we return the tree to you? Sun Shu's expression darkened even more. His smile grew colder. When I skin you alive, I will return the tree to you. This logic made so much sense that Lone Moon actually had nothing to say. But, alright, this is indeed our fault. We are not despicable people who dare not admit it. Lone Moon's voice deepened. He sighed deeply and bowed to the person opposite him. Young Emperor Sun, you should do whatever you want with this. It's best if you're willing to die. Sun Shu turned the sword in his hand and was about to attack. But, before we do this, there's something I have to make clear, Lone Moon suddenly interrupted. What is it? Lone Moon's expression tightened. He took a step to the side and pointed a finger behind him. She was the one who crushed the immortal sword. She was the one who uprooted the tree. Escaping was also her idea. Every debt has a debtor. If you want to settle the score, look for her. Thank you. With that, he took 5 or 6 steps back, revealing a dumbfounded Shining. Shining? Son of AB***. Sun Shu's anger was instantly focused on the person in front of him. He turned the sword in his hand and charged at Shining. Alright. I'll deal with you first, you little bastard. Xinying's heart raced. She finally understood what it meant to betray one's teammates. A moment later, well, I say, Comrade Gardner, why can't we talk things over? Look, you were the one who asked me to crush the box. It's not of good quality. You can't blame me for that, can you? Shining sucked in a deep breath and said earnestly, and that tree, that was really a misunderstanding. There was a delay in my communication with Father Nyo. I didn't want to uproot you at first. If you're worried, I'll plant it back for you later, alright? We're all reasonable people. We won't bully you, don't you think? Sun Shu's mouth twitched. He gritted his teeth as if trying to suppress something. A moment later he said, Yes, that's right. Shining nodded in satisfaction. Then what about the immortal sword? Forget it. That tree? I planted it. Alright, you're really a good person. Thank you for your understanding. Let's see, what can't we talk things over? Well, Now, can you move your foot away from my chest? By talking things over, you mean beating me up first? Damn you, he really thought he was going to die just now. Who the hell was this person? Her strength was too terrifying. He had no chance of fighting back at all. Oh. Shining finally retracted her foot. Looking at the man on the ground whose face was already swollen, she thought for a moment and reached out a hand. Come, let me help. What else do you want? Sun Shu's face paled. He retreated a few steps, afraid that she would strike him again. Shining? I just wanted to help him up. Was there a need to react so strongly? The two onlookers. Ahem, that? Seeing that the matter had been resolved, Lone Moon finally recovered from the one-sided beating. He coughed and nudged I Ching, who was beside him. Aren't we looking for the sword? Where do we start? Indeed, there was nothing that could not be solved with a beating. If there was, then he would beat him up twice. I Ching looked up at the sky and took a step forward. It's already noon. I heard from Immortal Emperor Guyu that noon is when the Yang Qi is at its strongest. This is the safest time in Yufeng immortal territory. So. He turned around and scanned the crowd with a serious face. Master, are you hungry? Why don't we have lunch first before we set off? Lone Moon, Sun Shu, good chef. I like it. Chapter 138. This is a map of the immortal domain. The immortal emperor gave it to me before we set off. I Ching waved his hand to summon a map. Various regions were marked on it. Some were deserts, some were seas, and some were forests. But most of them were covered with sand and stones. But this is only a part of the immortal domain. No one knows how big it is. The places that are not marked on the map are places that no one has reached. Lone Moon looked at the map carefully and found that it was marked very clearly. Even what would appear in each place was marked out. Then did he tell you which direction to go? I Ching nodded and pointed to the center. He told me not to bother about the other places on the map. I was to follow the road in the center and head west. I was to get out of the map as soon as possible and go to places that no one has ever set foot in. What? Lone Moon hesitated. Wasn't it safer to go to these known places? Of course it's for the six-joint sword. Sun Shu snorted. Almost everyone in the immortal realm has this map. Who knows how many sword immortals have been to these places? If there was a sword, it would have been found long ago. Naturally, we have to go somewhere else to look for it. This immortal emperor really cares about this sword. Come to think of it. Lone Moon frowned. He turned and glared at Sun Shu. Why are you still here? And he looked like he did not want to leave. Why can't I be here? Sun Shu's face flashed with panic. He immediately regained his composure and said confidently, although I, did forgive Shining, I did not forgive you. You have not explained to me about my immortal sword and the winter spirit tree. Don't try to deny it. Anyway, I will be following you for the next 3 months until you restore my precious winter spirit tree. He subconsciously glanced at a certain someone who was leisurely eating a pastry. Here. Lone Moon plucked the radish from his thigh and stuffed it into Sun Shu's hands. You put the radish, Pui, you plant this vegetation spirit beside the tree. I guarantee that not only one tree but even 100 trees will grow for you. The radish was the embodiment of vegetation spirit chi. As long as it was a plant, it would grow well beside it. Whether it was the lower realm or the immortal world. Rar rar rar. Radish jumped back from Sun Shu's arms. It shook its leaves in disgust and made a sound of disdain. Bah! Who would want to go back and plant trees with this ugly thing? No. Sun Shu was also dissatisfied with his perfunctory method. He flicked his silky hair and said, who knows if what you said is true or false? Before the tree is repaired, don't even think of escaping responsibility. With that said, he glanced at Shining again, intentionally or unintentionally. Besides, with that person's terrifying strength, perhaps. You want that sword too? Shining suddenly asked. Sun Shu jumped up in fright. His face turned pale and he looked as if he had been exposed. Who wants the six-joint sword? It's just that I haven't been to the immortal region for too long and I'm bored. That's why I'm kind enough to accompany you to take a look. Otherwise you won't even know how you died. Shining stared at him for a while before saying, oh. She did not say that it was the six-joint sword. Sun Shu, all right, we're full. It's time to set off. Since he was in the wrong, Lone Moon ignored Sun Shu. He stood up and dusted his robes. Let's go. Shining and I Ching stood up and summoned their immortal swords. They flew up on their swords and headed in the direction that Lone Moon had chosen. But it was not the path in the middle that the immortal emperor had instructed them to take. Sun Shu heaved a sigh of relief and chased after them on his sword. He had thought that although the immortal territory was vast, they would fly out of the area marked on the map in less than 3 days. For safety's sake, he had even personally set up a defensive array for them. He was afraid that something might happen to them once they reached the unknown area. But 5 days had passed, and they were still within the boundaries of the map. 10 days had passed, and they were still within the boundaries of the map. 15 days had passed, and they were still, an entire month had passed, and they were still going around in circles on the map. Moreover, they were going back and forth repeatedly. They even specially chose the areas with strange rocks. Once they found a strange rock, they would fly down and only do one thing. Dig, dig, dig. When they found 10th level weapon refinement materials, they dug, dug. When they found 8th level weapon refinement materials, they dug, dug. When they found 6th level weapon refinement materials, they dug, dug, dug. When they found 2nd level weapon refinement materials, they dug, dug, dug. They watched helplessly as rocks that were as tall as humans were dug until not a single one was left. Even the land around them was not spared. Lone Moon, do you have any more storage bags? There's a first-level moon crystal here. I Ching pointed to a rock at his feet and said, I have more than a dozen of them. Don't waste them. Yes. Lone Moon threw a bag over and instructed, hurry up and dig. If you don't have enough, I have more. He was already prepared. Enough. Sun Shu could not help but explode. He threw the immortal shovel in his hand onto the ground. How much longer are you going to dig for? Instead of looking for divine weapons, they came to dig for rocks. And why did they have to dig for him as well? Are you here to dig for weapon refinement materials or to look for swords? The three of them paused. Even Shining, who was sitting leisurely at the side and nibbling on a fruit, turned to look at them. The three of them paused, then replied in unison. We're here to dig for materials. 3 Sun Shu. They actually admitted it. What kind of place did they think this was? Our invincible sect is in urgent need of immortal weapons of various grades. Is there a problem? Lone Moon replied. Was it wrong for them to rely on their own abilities to get out of poverty? He was actually speechless. No, he could not let them continue digging like this. Otherwise, there would be no land left in the immortal territory. He took a deep breath and his eyes darted around. Then he suppressed his impatience and stepped forward to persuade them. There's no point in digging here. Although only sword immortals can enter the immortal territory, there are already no good materials to be found in these outer areas. This kind of first-level and second-level weapon refinement materials are not hard to find outside. It's not hard to find them outside, so why do you have to look for them? All the high-grade materials were inside, not to mention the 10th-grade materials. Not to mention 10th-level materials, even supreme-grade materials like the Skyfire Stone, are not non-existent. Lone Moon looked around and thought about it carefully. Indeed, he found that the closer they got to the edge of the map, the rarer the materials they saw. Although he had always been cautious in doing things. But they were here to gain experience. It would not be right if they did not go in and try their luck. Moreover, after digging for so many days, they had almost all the materials they needed. It was time to set off. All right. Let's not care about these first and second level materials. Let's go. He waved his hand and the three of them mounted their swords and flew towards the unknown area. Sun Shu heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally convinced these money-grubbing people who would not even let go of rocks. After digging for so many days, he had almost forgotten how dangerous this place was. But very quickly he discovered another problem. Why did we stop here? Sun Shu looked ahead, then turned back to look at the few people who had suddenly stopped to rest. It's dark. I Ching took out a blanket and gently covered the person beside him. With a matter-of-fact expression, he said in a low voice, It's time to sleep. Haven't you all become immortals? Rest my ass. Which immortal needs to sleep? Shining needs it. Lone Moon pointed to the person who had already fallen asleep. But she doesn't need to sleep for the whole night. No matter how tired she is, she just needs to rest for a few minutes, right? He looked dissatisfied. Don't forget that this immortal territory is only open for 3 months. No, we have to wake her up. No. The moment he got up, I Ching and Lone Moon flew forward at the same time and pressed him down. I Ching, we can't wake Master. Lone Moon, if you don't want to die. Sun Shu's heart tightened for no reason. What the hell? Just as he was thinking, the ground suddenly shook. Not far away, a roar pierced the night sky. Roar, you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.